My daughter-in-law, Ashley, showed up at my front door with 2 tired children, 3 overnight bags, and a smile sharp enough to cut glass. Before I could even ask what was happening, she pushed a printed schedule into my hand and said, "You do nothing anyway. Watch my kids while I travel." My son Michael sat in the car with the engine running, staring straight ahead like he hadn't heard a word. I looked down at Emma and Jack, both too young to understand why their grandmother's heart had just cracked open. So I smiled and said, "Of course, sweetheart." Ashley thought I had surrendered. She had no idea I had just begun my plan. If you've ever been treated like your love was free labor, please like this video, subscribe, and tell me in the comments what you would have done. Also comment where you're watching from and what time it is there. I love knowing where our stories are reaching. Before Ashley Nelson ever stood on my porch and told me I did nothing, I had spent 36 years doing more than most people ever saw. My name is Brooke Nelson. I was 68 years old when this story began, though some mornings my knees tried to convince me I was E.T. I lived alone in a modest cream-colored house on a quiet street outside Columbus, Ohio, the kind of neighborhood where people still waved from porches and knew when your trash cans had been out too long. My husband Thomas had been gone for 6 years. Some grief comes like thunder. Mine came like weather, quiet, returning. Some mornings it sat beside me at the kitchen table while I drank coffee from Thomas's old mug. Some evenings, it followed me into the garden when I watered the hydrangeas he had planted for me after our 30th anniversary. People said time healed, but I had learned that time simply taught you how to carry the love without dropping it. Thomas and I had one child, Michael. He was my whole world from the moment the nurse placed him in my arms. I raised him while teaching full-time, then later, while serving as principal of a public elementary school. I knew how to calm a crying first grader, how to face an angry parent, how to stretch a small budget, how to protect a child who could not yet explain what was hurting them. So when people said I was just retired, I sometimes wanted to laugh. Retired did not mean empty. My days were full in quiet ways. I worked in my garden. I volunteered at the church pantry twice a month. I helped organize the library book club every Thursday afternoon. Sometimes, when a neighbor's child struggled with reading, I sat with them at my dining room table and used the same patient voice I had used for decades. I baked banana bread when someone on the street had surgery. I wrote birthday cards by hand. I kept a clean home. I kept myself standing. But to Ashley, none of that counted. When Michael first introduced me to Ashley, I wanted to love her. Truly, I did. She was pretty in that polished way with perfect hair, perfect nails, and a smile she could switch on as quickly as a lamp. She called me Mom Nelson at first, and I remember feeling touched by it. I had imagined Sunday dinners, holiday traditions, maybe even a daughterly friendship that would soften the loneliness Thomas had left behind. At their wedding, Ashley hugged me for the photographers and whispered, "I'm so glad Michael has you." I believed her. For a while, things were pleasant. When Emma was born, Ashley let me come to the hospital and hold that tiny little girl with the rosebud mouth and the strongest grip I had ever felt. 3 years later, Jack arrived, round-cheeked and loud with Thomas's blue-grey eyes. I adored them both from the first breath. At first, Ashley asked for help, like it was help. "Brooke, would you mind watching Emma for an hour while I run to the store? Mom Nelson, could you pick up Jack from preschool? I'm stuck at an appointment. Would it be too much trouble if the kids stayed with you Saturday morning?" And I always said yes. because I loved those children and because I remembered how hard motherhood could be. I remembered being young and tired. I remembered trying to cook dinner while Michael tugged at my skirt. I remembered wishing my own mother had lived long enough to help me. So I helped. I helped with joy at first. I kept tiny socks in a drawer. I bought apple juice boxes and animal crackers. I learned which stuffed animal Emma needed at nap time and which dinosaur cup Jack would accept without tears. I put their drawings on my refrigerator until there was hardly space left for a grocery list. But slowly the asking changed. Ashley stopped saying, "Would you mind?" She started saying, "I need you to." Then even that became too polite. By the time Emma was 7 and Jack was 4, Ashley would text me at 7:12 in the morning. "Pick up Jack today. I have things to do." "No, please. No question mark." If I said I had book club, she replied, "Can't you skip it? It's just books." If I said I had a doctor's appointment, she sent back, "How long can that possibly take?" If I said I was tired, she would say, "Brooke, you're retired." Those 2 words became a cage. "You're retired." As if retirement meant I had no body that ached, no life of my own, no appointments, no friendships, no grief, no need for rest. As if I had become furniture after 65, useful, silent, always available. Michael saw it. That was the part that hurt most. My son saw the way Ashley talked to me. He heard the sharpness in her voice. He knew when she dropped the children off without warning. He knew when she left me to clean up after birthday parties I had not hosted. He knew when she made me drive across town in bad weather because she had already made plans. But Michael had become an expert at looking away. "Mum," he would say, rubbing the back of his neck the way he had as a boy, when he'd broken something Ashley's just overwhelmed. Or, "Can you help just this once?" Just this once became twice a week. Twice a week became every weekend. Every weekend became any time. Ashley decided her time mattered more than mine. I told myself Michael was under pressure. I told myself marriage was complicated. I told myself Ashley did not mean to be cruel. I told myself a lot of things because the alternative was admitting my own son was allowing his wife to treat me like unpaid staff. There were signs I chose not to see at first. Like the afternoon Ashley invited me over for Emma's birthday party, then handed me an apron the minute I walked in. "The caterer is late," she said. Can you just help? In the kitchen." I spent 3 hours carrying trays, wiping spills, cutting cake, and keeping Jack from knocking over a balloon arch, while Ashley stood in the backyard taking photos with other mothers. When guests thanked her for the beautiful party, she smiled and said, "It was exhausting, but worth it." She never mentioned my name. Another time she called me at 9 o'clock at night because Jack had a cough and she was too drained to sit up with him. I drove over in my robe, under my coat, stayed until 2 in the morning, and sang the same lullaby I had once sung to Michael. The next day, Ashley posted online about surviving a rough mom night. I saw the post while eating toast alone at my kitchen counter. I put my phone face down and cried. Still, I stayed. Because Emma would run into my arms and whisper, "Grandma Brooke, I missed you." Because Jack would press his sticky hand into mine and say, "You make the best soup." Because when those children were with me, I could give them steadiness. I could give them warmth. I could give them the kind of attention that did not depend on a phone screen or a schedule Ashley had printed for someone else to follow. I told myself that was enough, but deep down, something had begun to change in me. It wasn't anger at first. It was a small, quiet ache that grew every time Ashley dismissed me, every time Michael avoided my eyes, every time I rearranged my life around people who never asked whether I had one. I began to notice the language Ashley used. "She loves feeling needed," she told a friend once, not realizing I had heard from the hallway. "Brooke doesn't have much going on," she said. Another time while I stood in her laundry room folding Jack's pajamas. And once during a family brunch when Michael thanked me for picking up the kids 3 days in a row, Ashley waved her hand and said, "That's what grandmothers are for." I remember looking at her then, for really looking. She was smiling, but there was something beneath it. Not gratitude, not affection, ownership. In her mind, I was not a person helping her family. I was a resource, like a spare key, like an emergency contact, like a chair pulled from the corner when extra seating was needed. And perhaps the saddest part was that I had taught her she could treat me that way. Every yes had trained her. Every swallowed hurt had encouraged her. Every time I said, "It's all right," when it was not all right, I handed her another inch of myself. Thomas would not have liked that. I could almost hear his voice sometimes, low and gentle from the doorway of my memory. Brooke kindness without boundaries turns into self-betrayal. But I was not ready yet. Not then. At that point, I was still trying to keep peace. Still trying to be the good mother, the good grandmother, the easy one, the helpful one. I still believed if I loved them enough, they might one day notice the cost of what I was giving. I did not know Ashley was about to say the one sentence that would break something open in me. I did not know Michael's silence would hurt more than her cruelty. And I certainly did not know that a simple trip to Miami would expose the truth about my daughter-in-law, my son, and the invisible work they had all mistaken for nothing. But looking back now, I can see that the plan did not begin the morning Ashley dropped the children on my porch. It began much earlier. It began every time I said yes, while my heart whispered no. The Sunday dinner happened 1 week before Ashley left for Miami. I remember it clearly because I almost did not go. That afternoon, I stood in my bedroom holding 2 blouses against myself, one pale blue and one cream, and wondered why I was dressing with the nervousness of a woman attending a job interview, instead of dinner at her own son's house. The thought embarrassed me. A mother should not feel anxious before seeing her child. A grandmother should not rehearse conversations in the mirror trying to make sure she did not sound too needy, too sensitive, too old. But that was what life around Ashley had become. Michael had called earlier that morning and said, "Mom, Ashley's having a few people over tonight. She wants it casual, but she said you could bring your apple pie if you want." If I want. I smiled at that because Ashley never wanted the pie for me. She wanted it because Emma loved it, because guests praised it, because homemade desserts made her table look warmer than her heart often was. Still, I baked it. I peeled the apples by hand the way my mother had taught me. I added cinnamon, a little lemon, and just enough brown sugar. As the pie cooled on the counter, I packed a dish of chicken and wild rice casserole too, because Jack had been picky lately, and I knew he would eat that without a fuss. When I pulled into Michael and Ashley's driveway that evening, the house glowed like a magazine photo. White shutters, trimmed hedges, lanterns on the porch. Through the front windows, I could see people moving around with glasses in their hands. Laughter spilled through the walls before I even knocked. Emma opened the door before anyone else. "Grandma Brooke," she cried, throwing her arms around my waist. For a moment, everything in me softened. Jack came running behind her in dinosaur socks, shouting, "Did you bring pie?" "I brought pie," I said, kissing the top of his head. And casserole. Ashley appeared in the foyer, wearing a sleek green dress and gold earrings that caught the light when she moved. Her smile widened when she saw the dishes in my hands. "Oh, good," she said. "You brought real food." "Not hello, not thank you. Just relief that I had arrived useful." Michael came from the living room and took the casserole from me. He kissed my cheek quickly. "Hey, Mom, you look nice." Ashley glanced at my cream blouse and smiled in a way that did not reach her eyes. Very comfortable. It was such a small word. Comfortable. But from Ashley, even soft words could have sharp edges. The dining room was already full. Ashley had invited 2 couples from her neighborhood and a woman named Courtney, who from what I gathered was part of some online circle Ashley admired. Everyone seemed polished and loud, talking about boutique fitness classes, renovation plans, and trips they were taking. I sat near the end of the table beside Emma, grateful when she slipped her little hand into mine. Dinner began pleasantly enough. People complimented Ashley's centerpiece, the candles, the matching napkins. She accepted every compliment as if she had personally invented hospitality. No one knew I had come over the day before to help her polish the silverware and set the table because she said she was too stressed to think. Michael sat across from me, quieter than usual. He looked tired. There were faint lines around his eyes, and every time Ashley spoke, he seemed to measure his breathing. Halfway through dinner, Courtney asked Ashley about an upcoming trip. Ashley brightened immediately. "Oh, Miami," she said, leaning back as if the word itself deserved admiration. "Just a little girls' trip, but also kind of a networking opportunity. There are some lifestyle creators going and a brand consultant I've been talking with. I really need to be around women who are building something." One of the men laughed. "Sounds expensive." Ashley waved her hand. "You have to invest in yourself." Michael looked down at his plate. I noticed that. I also noticed how quickly Ashley glanced at him, warning him without a word not to speak. Courtney lifted her glass. "Honestly, you deserve it. Motherhood is exhausting." Ashley sighed dramatically. "You have no idea. I love my kids, obviously, but sometimes I feel like I can't breathe." Emma's hand tightened around mine. I looked at my granddaughter's face. She was staring at her plate, pushing peas around with her fork. I should have stayed quiet. For years, staying quiet had been my method of survival in that house. But I was thinking about Jack's allergy medicine, Emma's school project, the soccer practice schedule I knew by heart, because Ashley often forgot it. So I asked gently, "Who will be watching Emma and Jack while you're gone?" The conversation paused. Not stopped. Just paused as if I'd accidentally knocked a spoon against crystal. Ashley turned toward me slowly. That perfect smile's returned. "Well," she said, light and sweet, "Brooke doesn't exactly have a job." A few people laughed. Not loudly, not cruelly perhaps, but enough. Enough for heat to rise up my neck. Enough for me to feel every year of my life suddenly sitting on my shoulders. Enough for Emma to look at me quickly, her eyes wide with worry. Courtney tilted her head and said, "Honestly, retired people need something to keep them busy. My mother says she gets bored if we don't give her little projects." Little projects. I had managed budgets larger than some small businesses. I had sat with children whose parents forgot them. I had testified in school board meetings. I had buried my husband. I had raised a son. I had rebuilt mornings after grief made getting out of bed feel impossible. But to them, I was a little project person, a retired woman who needed to be kept busy. Michael shifted in his chair. For one hopeful second, I thought he might speak. I thought he might say, "Actually, Mum does a lot." Or, "Ashley, that's not fair." Or even just, "We haven't asked her yet." But he only reached for his water glass. The silence of your child can be louder than an insult from a stranger. Jack, who had been eating casserole with his spoon, looked up at me with gravy on his chin. "Grandma," he asked, "do you really do nothing all day?" There are moments when pain enters quietly like a needle through cloth. That question was one of them, because Jack was not trying to hurt me. He was 5. He was repeating the world as it had been handed to him, and in that instant, I understood that Ashley's contempt was not staying between adults anymore. It was leaking into the children. It was teaching them how to measure people. It was teaching them that care did not count unless it came with a paycheck. I forced a smile. "No, sweetheart," I said softly. "Grandma does plenty." Ashley laughed too bright. "Of course she does. She makes wonderful pie." More laughter. I looked down at my napkin and folded it once then again. The rest of dinner passed in fragments. Someone talked about flights. Someone else discussed hotel pools. Ashley described a restaurant in Miami where reservations were almost impossible to get. She said she might post a motherhood reset series while she was there. She used words like branding alignment, abundance. But beneath those words, I heard something else. Debt, fear, escape. At one point, her phone lit up beside her plate. I did not mean to look, but the screen was angled toward me. A notification from a bank appeared. Something about a declined payment. Ashley snatched the phone quickly and turned it face down. Michael saw it too. His jaw tightened. Ashley began talking louder. After dinner, while the guests moved into the living room for coffee, Ashley touched my elbow. "Can you help me in the kitchen?" It was not really a question. I followed her carrying dessert plates. The kitchen was spotless except for the mess, hidden from guest pans stacked in the sink, crumbs on the counter, a trash bag overfilled near the pantry. Ashley closed the swinging door behind us, and immediately her smile disappeared. "I need to go over next week," she said. She pulled a folded sheet of paper from a drawer and handed it to me. It was a schedule, not a request. A schedule, Monday through Sunday, drop-off times, pick-up times, what Emma should wear for Spirit Day, what Jack would and would not eat, medication instructions, bedtimes, screen time limits, a note reminding me not to give them too many sweets, and as if I'd not helped raise children before Ashley had learned to tie her shoes. At the bottom, in Ashley's neat handwriting, she had written, "Please keep house tidy while kids are there. They behave better with structure." I stared at that line. My house, my time, her instructions. "Ashley," I said carefully, "we haven't talked about whether I'm available all week." She blinked, genuinely annoyed. "Brooke, don't make this complicated. I have commitments. You have book club and church pantry and what gardening she said. Come on, I need this trip. Michael knows. The kids are comfortable with you. It makes sense. It would have been nice to be asked." Her face hardened for half a second, then smoothed again. "Fine," she said. "I'm asking." But she was not asking. We both knew it. From the other room, laughter rose. Ashley glanced toward it, then lowered her voice. "Look, I'm under a lot of pressure right now. I have opportunities coming in. I can't be stuck here every second just because I'm a mother. You had your life. I'm trying to build mine." The words should have made me sympathetic, Perhaps they would have if they had not been wrapped in so much entitlement. I looked at the schedule again. When do you leave Monday afternoon? In 8 days, she hesitated. This Monday. I lifted my eyes. Tomorrow? It's not a big deal. A cold feeling moved through me. You were going to tell me tonight. I'm telling you now. No, I said quietly. You're informing me now. Her mouth tightened. You know most grandmothers would be grateful to spend time with their grandchildren. There it was. The old hook. Gratitude used as a leash. I folded the schedule once and held it in my hand. Before I could answer, Michael pushed open the kitchen door. Everything okay? Ashley smiled instantly. Perfect. Your mum's just being a little sensitive. He looked at me then. I waited. I waited for him to ask what happened. I waited for concern. I waited for my son. But he only sighed. Mom, he said softly, can we please not do this tonight? Not do what defend myself. Ask to be respected. Remind them I was a person. I looked from my son to his wife, and something inside me went very still. Not broken, not yet, but still. I should get home, I said. Ashley's expression flashed with irritation. But dessert? You can serve the pie, I said. It's already made. I kissed Emma and Jack goodbye. Emma held me longer than usual. Jack asked if I would come back soon. I told him yes. Because of course I would. That was the terrible power Ashley had over me. Not herself. Never herself. The children. As I drove home under the Ohio evening sky, I kept seeing Jack's face. Grandma, do you really do nothing all day? By the time I pulled into my driveway, see a pie dish still in Ashley's kitchen, my hands were shaking. I sat in the dark car for several minutes. For the first time, I did not tell myself Ashley was overwhelmed. I did not tell myself Michael was trying his best. I did not tell myself it was harmless. Because that night, I understood something clearly. When people dismiss your life long enough, they eventually expect you to disappear inside their needs. And Ashley was not just asking for help anymore. She was building a story where I existed only to serve. Monday morning arrived too bright. That is what I remember most. The sky was clear, the kind of soft Ohio blues that usually made me want to open every curtain and let the day in. Sunlight spilled across my kitchen floor while the coffee brewed, and for a moment, I let myself pretend the night before had not happened. I told myself Ashley might call. Maybe she would apologize for springing the schedule on me. Maybe Michael would stop by and say, Mum, we handled it. You don't have to worry. Maybe for once, someone would recognize that my time belonged to me before they tried to claim it. But can be a cruel little habit. At 8:17, while I was watering the pots of geraniums on my front porch, I heard a car pull up too fast at the curb. I knew the sound before I looked. Michael's SUV. My stomach tightened. The back door opened first. Emma climbed out with her pink backpack hanging from one shoulder and her stuffed rabbit pressed under her arm. Jack followed, dragging a dinosaur backpack that looked almost as big as he was. His hair was still messy from sleep, and one shoe was untied. Then Ashley stepped out. She looked nothing like a mother beginning a complicated childcare handoff. She looked like a woman headed for a magazine shoot at an airport. Oversized sunglasses, white linen pants, a pale coral blouse, gold bracelets on her wrist, a rolling suitcase in one hand, and a designer tote in the other. Michael stayed behind the wheel. The engine kept running. That sound, low and steady, felt like a warning. Ashley came up the walkway without greeting me. She set the suitcase near my porch swing, then turned and motioned for Emma and Jack to hurry. Come on, guys. Grandma doesn't need you standing around like statues. Emma gave me a small smile, but it did not reach her eyes. Jack ran to me and wrapped his arms around my waist. Grandma Brooke, he mumbled. I forgot my blue cup. I have one here, sweetheart, I said, smoothing his hair. Ashley exhaled sharply, already annoyed. He may cry about it. Just ignore that. He gets over things faster when people don't indulge him. I looked at Jack's small face pressed against my sweater and felt something inside me twist. Ashley pushed past me into the house carrying 2 bags. I pack clothes for the week, but there's laundry in here too. Emma has library day Wednesday. Jack needs his allergy medicine at night, and please don't let them eat too much processed food. Oh, and Emma's project board is in the car. Michael can bring it in. From the driver's seat, Michael did not move. I stood in my own doorway, holding the watering can, watching my daughter-in-law take over my entryway like she owned it. Ashley, I said carefully, we never agreed on this. She stopped halfway through placing a bag near the hall closet. Slowly, she turned. For a moment, the sunglasses hid her eyes, and maybe that made her bolder. Brooke, not this again. This is not again. This is the first time you have arrived at my house with the children and luggage without asking me properly. I told you last night. You informed me last night. She laughed once short and cold. I do not have time for semantics. My flight leaves this afternoon. I set the watering can down. Then you should have arranged childcare before this morning. Her face changed. The pleasant mask slipped, and what stood beneath it was the version of Ashley I had come to know in hallways and kitchens away from guests and cameras. She lowered her voice, but not enough. You do nothing anyway, she said. Watch my kids while I travel. The sentence landed between us like a dropped plate. Emma looked at the floor. Jack's grip tightened around me. And Michael, my son, sat 10 feet away in the SUV with both hands on the steering wheel, staring straight ahead. I looked past Ashley toward him. He had heard. I knew he had heard because his jaw moved once like he was swallowing something bitter. But he did not turn off the engine. He did not step out. He did not defend me. He did not even look at me. It is a strange thing being hurt by 2 people at once in 2 entirely different ways. Ashley's cruelty was loud. Michael's cowardice was silent. I could have argued. I could have told her to take the children back. I could have marched to the car and demanded my son face me like the grown man I had raised him to be. I could have let my humiliation become thunder right there on that porch. But then Jack whispered, "Are we bad grandma that broke through everything?" I knelt carefully in front of him. His lower lip trembled, and Emma stood behind him looking far too old for 8 years old. "No," I said, touching Jack's cheek. "You are not bad. Not ever." Ashley rolled her eyes. "See? This is why he's dramatic." I stood slowly. Something in me went very quiet. Not weak quiet. Not frightened quiet. Principle quiet. The kind of quiet I used years ago when a parent screamed in my office while a scared child sat outside the door. The kind of quiet that meant I had stopped reacting and started observing. I looked at Ashley and smiled gently. "Of course, sweetheart," I said. "Come inside." Relief flashed across her face, though she tried to hide it under annoyance. In her mind, she had won. She believed she had pushed hard enough, shamed me enough, cornered me with the children enough. She did not know that my yes had changed shape. It was no longer surrender. It was documentation. Ashley spent the next 10 minutes giving instructions as if she were briefing a servant. Jack's medicine, Emma's homework, no television before dinner, no fast food, bath time, bedtime, snack preferences, school drop-off line procedures, though I had driven that same line more times than she had in the past year. She handed me a printed schedule with highlighted sections. "Please follow this exactly," she said. "They need consistency." I wanted to say children also needed parents who did not leave them like packages on a porch. Instead, I folded the paper and placed it on the entry table. "Where will you be staying?" I asked. She hesitated for the smallest second. "Miami. I know the city. I mean the hotel. Why in case of emergency?" She sighed, as if emergency contact information were an outrageous invasion of privacy. "The hotel might change." "I'll text you." "Flight number." "I said I'll text you." Behind her, Michael finally got out of the car. He brought in Emma's project board without meeting my eyes. He placed it against the wall and kissed Jack on the head. "Be good for Grandma," he muttered. I looked at him. "Michael!" He froze. For a second, he was 10 years old again, caught sneaking cookies before dinner. "Do you have anything to say to me?" Ashley answered before he could. "He has work, Brooke. We all have things to do." Michael looked at me then, just briefly. His eyes were tired and full of apology. He did not have the courage to speak. "I'll call you later, Mom," he said. But I knew he would not. They left in a rush of perfume exhaust and wheels over gravel. Ashley waved from the passenger seat without looking back. Michael drove away. The children and I stood in the doorway until the SUV turned the corner. Then Emma said, "Grandma, I'm sorry." I turned to her. "For what?" She shrugged, still staring outside. "Mum was mad this morning. She said if you made a fuss, everything would be ruined. A fuss. That was what they called a woman asking for respect." I closed the door gently. "Come on, you two. Let's have breakfast." The morning became ordinary because children need ordinary things, even when adults have behaved terribly. I made scrambled eggs and toast with strawberry jam. Jack drank orange juice from the green cup I kept for him. Emma sat quietly at the table organising her coloured pencils for the school project. I made their beds in the guest room. I found extra hangers for their clothes. I checked Jack's medicine label and wrote the dosage on a sticky note. I emailed Emma's teacher to let her know I would be handling pickup that week. I did everything Ashley had called nothing, and I did it well. But by evening, after baths and stories and one long negotiation over whether Jack's dinosaur could sleep under the blanket or on top of it, the house finally grew still. Emma and Jack slept in the guest room, their small breaths rising and falling in the dark. I stood in the hallway for a while watching them. The anger I had held back all day softened into something heavier. They were innocent. That was what made the whole thing so difficult. My battle was not with the children. My pain was not because of them. In truth, they were the reason I had endured so much for so long. But love for children should never be used as a trap. I went to my bedroom and pulled the old cedar box from the top shelf of my closet. Thomas had made it with his own hands the year Michael left for college. The edges were smooth from years of touch. Inside were the things I could not bear to display, but could not bear to lose Thomas's wedding band, a dried rose from our 40th anniversary, a stack of letters tied with blue ribbon, and a small leather notebook. I opened the notebook first. Thomas had used it for quotes measurements, grocery lists, and thoughts that came to him in the middle of ordinary days. His handwriting leaned slightly to the right, strong, familiar. Near the back, on a page marked with an old coffee stain, he had written, "Never teach people to love you by letting them use you." I read it once, then again. Then I pressed the notebook against my chest and cried for the first time that day. Not loudly. I did not want the children to wake, but deeply. I cried because I missed my husband. I cried because my son had looked away. I cried because Ashley had found the softest part of me, my love for Emma and Jack, and learned how to press on it until I obeyed. After a few minutes, I wiped my face, then I went to the kitchen. I took a clean spiral notebook from the drawer, where I kept grocery coupons and church bulletins. I sat at the table beneath the soft yellow light and wrote the date at the top of the first page. Then I wrote the title, "The Cost of Nothing." Underneath, I began listing everything. 8:17 a.m., Ashley and Michael dropped off Emma and Jack without confirmed agreement. Ashley's statement, "You do nothing anyway. Watch my kids while I travel." Michael, present, did not intervene. Children appeared tired and anxious. No hotel information provided. No flight information provided. Schedule left with childcare instructions. I paused, listening to the quiet house. Then I continued. I wrote down what they ate, what I spent, what medicine Jack needed, what school items Emma had brought, what Ashley had failed to provide. I placed the printed schedule in a folder. I saved Ashley's texts. I took a photo of the bags in my hallway, not because I wanted revenge, but because I had finally learned that memory alone was too easy for people to deny. By the time the kitchen clock showed 11:43 p.m., I had 3 pages of notes. My hand ached, but my heart felt strangely steady. For years I had tried to prove my love by absorbing disrespect quietly. That night, I understood I could love my family and still tell the truth about them. Ashley thought I was just an old woman with nowhere to be. She thought I would complain softly, then fold. She thought my silence meant she owned my time. But as I closed the notebook and placed my palm over the title, I felt Thomas close to me in a way I had not felt in months. I whispered into the kitchen darkness, "All right, Tom, I hear you." Then I turned off the light. My plan had begun. By Tuesday morning, the house had changed its rhythm around Emma and Jack. Children have a way of filling empty rooms without trying. My quiet kitchen, which usually held only the sound of the coffee maker and the soft hum of the refrigerator, now had cereal bowls, school papers, crayons, mismatched socks, and Jack's dinosaur backpack lying upside down by the chair, as if it had fainted from exhaustion. I woke before 6, not because I had to, but because old habits from my school years had never fully left me. I packed Emma's lunch, first turkey sandwich, with the crusts cut off apple slices, pretzels, and the little chocolate pudding cup I knew Ashley would have disapproved of if she had been there to notice. Then I packed Jack's snack for preschool, checked his allergy medicine, and wrote both children's names on the water bottles they had brought. Emma came into the kitchen quietly, already dressed, her hair brushed but not quite smooth in the back. She was 8 years old and carried herself with the carefulness of a child who had learned not to be inconvenient. "Good morning, sweetheart," I said. "Did you sleep?" She nodded. "Jack kicked me. That means he was comfortable." She smiled a little, but her eyes went to the notebook sitting closed near my place at the table. Children notice more than adults think. "Is that for your book club?" she asked. "In a way," I said, sliding it into a drawer. "It's for remembering things." She sat down and reached for her orange juice. After a moment, she said, "Mommy says she has to remember everything because nobody helps her." I kept my hands busy with toast. "Your mommy has a lot on her mind," I said carefully. Emma looked down. She says Daddy makes things harder. I felt a small tightening in my chest. I wanted to ask questions. I wanted to know how much Emma had heard, how often she had been made to carry adult complaints in that tender little heart. But I had spent too many years around children to make that mistake. If you pushed too hard, they retreated. If you made your face too worried, they learned to protect you from the truth. So I only said, sometimes grown-ups say things when they're stressed, but it is not a child's job to fix grown-up problems. Emma did not answer. Jack stumbled in 5 minutes later, dragging his blanket behind him. I don't want preschool, he announced. That is a very popular opinion, I said. He frowned. What's opinion? It means something you think. I think pancakes. Emma giggled, and the sound loosened something in the room. So, I made pancakes. Ashley's printed schedule said, oatmeal on Tuesday. But Ashley was not there, and children who had been dropped off like luggage deserved pancakes. I made them small and golden with blueberries for Emma and plain for Jack because any visible fruit inside bread offended him deeply. While they ate, I texted Ashley a photo of Jack's medicine bottle and asked again for hotel and flight information in case of emergency. She did not respond for 3 hours. When she finally did, the message said, "Can't talk. Busy day. Just follow the schedule. Nothing about whether the children had slept well. Nothing about Jack's cough. Nothing about Emma's school project." I took a screenshot and saved it. After drop-off, I drove home through neighbourhoods just beginning to wake. Parents stood at bus stops with travel mugs. A jogger passed under yellowing trees. It was ordinary, peaceful, almost beautiful. And that made my heart ache, because underneath the ordinary surface of my life, something had shifted permanently. At home, I opened my notebook. Tuesday, 8:10 a.m. dropped Emma at elementary school. Jack at preschool. Ashley still has not provided hotel or flight details. Response received, can't talk. Busy day. Just follow the schedule. Then I wrote down breakfast lunches, gas mileage, and the cost of the extra children's toothpaste I had bought because Ashley forgot to pack any. It felt strange at first, recording these little things. Petty almost. But Helen's voice echoed in my mind from years ago when she had helped a neighbour through a custody mess. If it matters to a child's safety, write it down. Memory gets emotional. Paper stays calm. That afternoon when I picked Emma up from school, her teacher Mrs. Alvarez came out with her. Mrs. Nelson, she asked. Yes. She gave me a polite smile, but there was concern behind it. I'm glad to see you. We've had a few different pickup arrangements recently, and I just wanted to confirm you'll be the one this week. I looked at Emma. Her face had gone still. Yes, I said. I'll be picking her up through Friday at least. Mrs. Alvarez lowered her voice. Emma has seemed a little tired lately. Nothing alarming, but she's been more distracted than usual. She forgot her reading folder twice last week, and that isn't like her. Emma looked as if she wanted to disappear into her backpack. I put a hand gently on her shoulder. Thank you for telling me. I'll make sure we get back into a routine. On the drive home, Emma stared out the window. After a few minutes, she whispered, I forgot because Mommy was mad and we left fast. When was that last week? She said we were late because Daddy didn't transfer money. There it was again. Money. The word seemed to sit in every corner of this situation, hidden under perfume and sunglasses and Miami plans. What happened then? I asked, softly. Emma shrugged. Mommy cried in the bathroom. Then she came out and made a video. I gripped the steering wheel. A video. She said people like honesty. but she put makeup on first. I did not respond because I did not trust my voice. That evening, Jack's cough worsened. It was not terrible, but he sounded tight in the chest, and he kept rubbing his nose. I checked his temperature, 100.4. Not high enough for panic, but enough for concern. I texted Ashley. Jack has a low fever and cough. I'm giving the allergy medicine you packed. Does he have any other medication or recent symptoms I should know about? 20 minutes passed, then 40, then an hour. No response. I called Michael, straight to voicemail. So I did what mothers and grandmothers have always done when people fail to answer. I handled it. I called the pediatric nurse line. I described Jack's symptoms, his temperature, his medication. They told me what to watch for and recommended fluids rest and a humidifier. I set up the old blue humidifier I kept from when Michael was young. Jack fell asleep on my lap while Emma sat beside me doing math homework. She looked over at her brother and said, "He gets scared when he can't breathe good." "I know," I said. "Mommy gets mad when he coughs at night." My hand paused on Jack's back. "She probably gets worried," I said, though. Even as I said it, I hated how much work I was doing to soften another adult's behavior. Emma shook her head. "She says he ruins her sleep." The room seemed to tilt around me. There are sentences children repeat that tell you not just what happened, but what kind of air they have been breathing. I kissed the top of Jack's head and kept rubbing slow circles on his back. Later, when both children were asleep, I sat at the kitchen table and wrote everything down. Not with fury. Fury would have made the words shake. I wrote with a steadiness that frightened me a little. Tuesday night, Jack fever 100.4. Ashley notified no response. Michael called, no response. Nurse line contacted. Humidifier used. Emma stated Jack gets scared and that Ashley says he ruins her sleep. Then I added the cost of children's fever reducer I had bought at the pharmacy, though I had used only a small amount after checking with the nurse. On Wednesday, I found the first real clue. It happened while I was doing laundry. Ashley had packed in a rush, throwing clean clothes and dirty clothes into the same bag. I separated tiny socks, pajamas, school shirts, and a blouse that was definitely Ashley's, likely tossed in by mistake. In the side pocket of the overnight bag, I found a folded hotel receipt. I did not go looking for it. It was there, half sticking out beside a packet of wipes. The name of the hotel made me pause. I knew enough from advertisements to recognize luxury when I saw it. The kind of place with white cabanas, ocean views, and prices that made ordinary people close the website quickly. Beneath it was a shopping receipt from a boutique in Miami. $486 for sunglasses. I stared at the paper for a long moment, then set it aside. There was also a sealed envelope addressed to Ashley from a company with the words Debt Recovery Services printed in the return address. I did not open it. I would not become someone who invaded private mail. But I was no fool. A debt recovery envelope did not come because everything was fine. I placed the receipts back in the side pocket and wrote only what I could truthfully say in my notebook. Found visible hotel receipt and boutique receipt in children's bag pocket, apparently packed by mistake. Sealed debt recovery envelope also present, not opened. That night at dinner, Emma picked at her spaghetti. "Grandma, yes, honey. Are we expensive?" The question stole the breath from me. "Why would you ask that?" She twisted noodles around her fork but did not eat them. "Mommy said kids are expensive, and Grandma will pay if things get bad, because grandmas always do." Jack, unaware of the heaviness of the moment, sprinkled too much cheese on his plate. I set my fork down. "Listen to me, Emma. You and Jack are not a bill. You are children. Grown-ups are responsible for money, not you. But Mommy says I know what Mommy says. I interrupted gently. But I'm telling you the truth. Her eyes filled with tears she tried very hard to hide. That was when my concern became something sharper. Until then, I had thought Ashley was careless, selfish, disrespectful. But now I saw something more deliberate. She was not only using my time, she was preparing the children to believe I was the safety net for every consequence she created. And perhaps she was preparing herself to believe it too. On Thursday afternoon, Ashley finally called. Not to check on Jack. Not to speak to Emma. Not to thank me. She called because she wanted me to bring a package inside from her porch before someone stole it. I'm across town with the kids, I said. I can ask Michael, she scoffed. Michael's useless with details. Can't you just swing by? Jack has a fever, Ashley? A pause, then still, as if his illness were an inconvenience that had overstayed its welcome. Yes, I said, still. Well, make sure he drinks water. And don't let Emma stay up late. She gets dramatic when she's tired. I closed my eyes. Ashley, Emma, and Jack both need to hear from you. I'll FaceTime later. She did not. By Friday, Jack was better. Emma's project was finished. The house smelled like chicken soup and crayons. The children were calmer, sleeping deeper, laughing more. But I was not calmer. Every small revelation had formed a pattern. Forgotten pickups, different babysitters, fights about money, children apologizing for needing care. Ashley escaping into a fantasy of luxury while leaving responsibility behind. On Friday night after Emma and Jack fell asleep, I opened the notebook and reviewed the pages. There were already more than I expected. Meals, gas, medicine, school communication, emotional care, missed responses, disturbing statements from the children, receipts accidentally visible, Ashley's lack of emergency information. At the top of a new page, I wrote, "This is not revenge. This is protection." Then I sat there for a long time listening to the humidifier hum down the hall and the soft breathing of my grandchildren. I realized something that hurt and strengthened me at the same time. For years I had thought my job was to keep the peace. But peace built on one woman's silence is not peace. It is permission. And I was done giving Ashley permission to call love nothing. By Saturday morning, I knew I needed advice from someone who loved me enough to tell me the truth. Not the softened truth people offer when they want to keep a family comfortable. Not the kind of truth that begins with, "Well, maybe she didn't mean it that way." I had heard enough of that in my life. I needed the clear, steady truth of a woman who had spent years watching families fall apart when everyone pretended the cracks were just shadows. So after breakfast, while Emma and Jack sat at the kitchen table colouring pictures of farm animals, I called Helen Carter. Helen had been my friend for almost 30 years. We met when I was still principal at Westbrook Elementary, and she came to speak at a parent education night about custody agreements and child welfare. She had been a family law attorney, then sharp as a sewing needle, and twice as useful. She was retired now, at least officially, though she still took small consulting cases and had a way of making people sit straighter when she entered a room. She answered on the 4th ring. "Brooke Nelson," she said warmly, "tell me this is a social call, and not because you finally decided to run away with that widower from your church pantry." Despite everything, I laughed. "No widowers today." "Shame! What's wrong?" That was Helen. No circling, no pretending she did not hear the weight in my voice. I looked toward the dining room. Emma was helping Jack choose between a brown cow and a purple one. He chose purple, of course. I need to talk to you about Michael and Ashley, I said, and the children. Helen was quiet for a beat. I'll be there in 40 minutes. You don't have to come all the way. I said 40 minutes. Put coffee on. She arrived in 32. Helen Carter was 69, tall, silver-haired, and still carried herself like she expected foolishness to move out of her way. She wore navy slacks, a white blouse, and small pearl earrings. When she stepped into my kitchen, she kissed my cheek, greeted the children kindly, then studied my face for half a second longer than most people would. You haven't slept enough, she said. I've slept. That was not what I said. I poured coffee while the children moved into the living room to watch a cartoon. I kept the volume low enough to hear them, and high enough that they would not hear every word from the kitchen. Then I told Helen everything. I told her about the Sunday dinner, Ashley's comment that I did not have a job, Jack, asking whether I did nothing all day. I told her about Monday morning, the bags, the running engine, Michael refusing to meet my eyes, and Ashley saying, "You do nothing anyway. Watch my kids while I travel." Helen did not interrupt. That was one of her gifts. She could listen without filling silence with her own discomfort. I showed her the printed schedule. I showed her screenshots of Ashley's texts. I showed her the notes I had written each night in the spiral notebook. I told her about Jack's fever, the unanswered messages, the teacher's concern, Emma's comments about money, the hotel receipt, the boutique receipt, and the sealed debt recovery envelope I had not opened. When I finished, Helen took off her glasses and placed them carefully beside her coffee cup. For a moment, she said nothing. That frightened me more than if she had reacted immediately. Finally, she asked, "What do you want, Brooke? The question surprised me. I want my grandchildren safe. That is clear. What else? I don't want a war. No one ever does at the beginning. I don't want to take children from their mother. I did not ask what you don't want." I looked down at my hands. They looked older than I felt in that moment. Veins raised, knuckles slightly swollen. A thin burn mark from the casserole dish I had pulled from Ashley's oven months earlier without a mitt, because she had been too busy taking photos to notice it smoking. I want to stop being treated like I belong to them, I said. Helen's expression softened. There it is. My throat tightened. Does that make me selfish? No, she said firmly. It makes you late, but not selfish. I looked toward the living room. Jack laughed at something on the television. Emma shushed him like a tiny mother. Helen followed my gaze. Those children need love, she said, but they also need adults who understand responsibility. Right now, Ashley is using your love as a substitute for hers, whenever motherhood inconveniences her. The words hurt because they were true. I don't want to hurt Michael, I whispered. Helen leaned back. Brooke, your son is already hurt. He is just passing some of that hurt to you because you keep accepting delivery. I closed my eyes. No one could slice through a lie quite like Helen. She opened my notebook and flipped through the pages slowly. You've done well documenting, Piker, she said. Keep doing it. Dates, times, exact words when possible, expenses, missed communications, anything related to the children's health school transportation or emotional well-being. I feel awful writing things down about my own family. Then write this at the front. She tapped the notebook. Documentation is not betrayal. It is protection against denial. I reached for a pen and wrote it inside the cover. Helen continued. You also need to stop accepting open-ended responsibility. Ashley cannot drop children off indefinitely and then decide when your life resumes. She said she'll be back Sunday. But did she put that in writing? I hesitated. The schedule goes through Sunday. That is not the same thing. I knew she was right. Helen took a notepad from her purse, tore off a page, and began writing in the neat, compact script I remembered from school board meetings. Send a text to both Ashley and Michael. Calm, clear, no emotion. State that you are caring for Emma and Jack through Sunday at 6 p.m. because that is the schedule Ashley provided. State that one or both parents must pick them up by that time, or contact you with a confirmed plan before then. Ask again for hotel and flight details for emergency purposes. My stomach tightened. That sounds so formal. It needs to. What if Ashley gets angry? Helen gave me a look over her glasses. Oh, Brooke Ashley is already angry whenever the world does not bend quickly enough. That cannot be your measurement for whether something is right. I almost smiled. Helen slid the paper toward me. Do not accuse. Do not threaten. Do not mention lawyers. Do not argue. Your power here is clarity. I picked up my phone. My fingers trembled slightly as I typed. Ashley and Michael. I'm confirming that I'm caring for Emma and Jack through Sunday at 6 p.m. based on the schedule Ashley provided. One or both of you will need to pick them up by then. Or contact me before that time with a confirmed plan. Please also send hotel and flight information for emergency purposes. Jack had a low fever this week, so I need to be able to reach you promptly if needed. I read it twice. Helen nodded. I sent it. For several minutes, nothing happened. Then Ashley replied, And don't be dramatic. You're lucky we let you feel needed. I stared at the screen. There are insults that burn hot, and there are insults that freeze you. This one froze me, because it confirmed what I had been trying not to believe. Ashley did not see my help as love. She saw it as a privilege she granted me. Helen held out her hand. May I? I gave her the phone. She read the message, her mouth flattening. Screenshot that! I already did. Good. Michael did not respond at all. Somehow that hurt nearly as much. Helen took a slow sip of coffee. Your son's silence is also information. I sat down heavily. What happens if they don't come Sunday? Helen's face became careful. Legally, you are the grandmother caring for children with parental knowledge. If the parents fail to retrieve them after clear notice, and if you cannot reach them, you may have grounds to contact local authorities or Child Protective Services to document abandonment or neglect. I am not telling you to rush there. I am telling you that you are not powerless. The words made my chest tighten. Child Protective Services. Authorities. Those were heavy doors. Once opened, they did not always close gently. I don't want Emma and Jack frightened, I said. Then keep everything child-centered. If Sunday comes and no one appears, your first step can be another written message. Then call Michael, then Ashley. Then, if needed, you ask for a welfare check or guidance. But Brooke, you cannot allow fear of consequences to make you the permanent consequence absorber. I looked down. Permanent consequence absorber. That was exactly what I had become. Helen reached across the table and covered my hand with hers. You are not trying to punish Ashley, Ali, she said. You are trying to stop a pattern before it teaches those children that women exist to be used quietly. A lump rose in my throat. I still love my son. Of course you do. And I love those babies. I know. I'm afraid if I set boundaries, I'll lose them. Helen's voice softened. That is the leash Ashley has been holding. She knows your fear. She has built a system around it. I wiped my eyes quickly, embarrassed. Helen pretended not to notice, which was one of the kinder things a friend can do. Then she said, "Now, tell me about the money." I sighed. I told her everything I knew, the bank notification, Michael's tense face, Emma's comments, the receipts, the debt recovery envelope. I told her about Ashley's sudden interest in online branding trips image and expensive things. I told her about a conversation months earlier when Ashley had casually asked whether I had ever thought about selling my house and moving into a senior apartment because maintenance gets hard at your age. Helen's eyebrows rose. She said that. She said it would free up money. For whom I gave a humorless laugh. She did not specify. Helen's eyes sharpened. Do not give them money. Not informally. Not because Michael cries. Not because Ashley hints. Not because the children are mentioned. If you ever choose to help, it goes directly toward a child's need with receipts, never through Ashley. I nodded. And secure important documents. House deed, bank information, passwords, sentimental valuables. People under financial pressure often become creative with justification. The thought made me uncomfortable. Ashley wouldn't steal from me. Helen looked at me for a long moment. Brooke. Just my name. That was all. But it carried the weight of every excuse I had ever made. After Helen left, I spent the afternoon with the children, as if nothing serious had happened. We made grilled cheese sandwiches. We walked to the small park 2 blocks away. Jack collected acorns and insisted one looked like a tiny hat. Emma sat beside me on a bench and leaned her head on my arm. Grandma, yes. Are you sad? I looked at her, that wise little face watching me too carefully. A little, I admitted. But I'm okay. Is it because of us? I turned fully toward her. No, never because of you. She studied me, wanting to believe it. I took her hand. Sometimes grown-ups have to learn how to be kinder to each other. That is not your job to fix. She nodded, but I could tell she was storing the words somewhere deep. That night, after bath stories and Jack's medicine, I tucked them into bed. Jack fell asleep quickly. Emma stayed awake longer, staring at the ceiling. Grandma, she whispered, will Mommy be mad when she comes back? I don't know, I said honestly. But whatever she feels, you are safe here tonight. Her eyes closed slowly. Safe here tonight. Sometimes that is all you can promise a child. When the house grew quiet, I returned to the kitchen table. I added Helen's advice to my folder. I printed Ashley's latest text and placed it behind the schedule. Then I took a larger folder from my desk and wrote on the tab. The Cost of Nothing Family Copy. The title looked almost strange in neat black ink. But it also looked true. I was no longer simply remembering pain. I was organizing truth. And truth, I had learned, could be much stronger than anger when placed in the right hands at the right time. Sunday came with the kind of quiet that feels like a test. I woke early, though I had barely slept. The house was still dark, and for a few minutes I lay in bed listening to the faint creaks of the old floorboards settling beneath the cool morning air. From the guest room came the soft rhythm of Jack's breathing, and the occasional rustle of Emma turning over in bed. 6 o'clock that evening sat in my mind like a deadline written in red ink. I wanted to believe Ashley and Michael would come on time. I wanted to believe my clear message, Helen's advice, and the weight of the situation would be enough to make them act like parents, instead of people borrowing responsibility from an old woman they thought had no life of her own. But I had lived long enough to know that wanting something did not make it likely. Still, I prepared as if they would come. After breakfast, I helped Emma finish the last details on her school project board. She had chosen to make it about honeybees, and we glued tiny yellow paper bees around the title. Jack kept trying to add dinosaurs to the bee habitat, insisting that bees need guards. Emma rolled her eyes, but for the first time all week, she laughed like a child instead of a tiny, exhausted adult. That sound almost broke me. I made chicken noodle soup for lunch because Jack's cough had faded but not vanished. I washed both children's clothes, folded them neatly, and packed their bags with more care than Ashley had used when she dropped them off. Emma's homework folder went in the front pocket. Jack's allergy medicine went in a clear plastic bag with the dosage written on a sticky note. I wrote a short summary for Michael and Ashley Jacks. Fever peaked Tuesday night, nurse line contacted symptoms. Improved medicine given as directed Emma's project completed. Mrs. Alvarez asked for consistent pickup arrangements. It looked like something I might have sent home with a student years ago. A factual report. Calm, useful, hard to deny. At 4:30, I gave the children early baths. At 5:15, Emma put on clean jeans and a lavender sweater. Jack wore his dinosaur shirt, the one with a T-Rex wearing sunglasses. He asked if Mommy would bring him something from Miami. I don't know, I said brushing his hair. She said maybe a shark. A real one. He giggled. No, Grandma, a toy one. Emma sat on the edge of the bed, quieter now. What time are they coming? She asked. 6 o'clock, I said. She looked at the clock on the dresser, even though she had only recently learned how to read it confidently. And if they're late, I kept my voice steady. Then we'll handle that when it happens. She nodded, but her fingers twisted the hem of her sweater. I hated that she already knew to prepare for disappointment. At 5:50, I set their bags by the front door. At 5:58, Jack sat on the hallway rug beside his backpack, holding his stuffed dinosaur. At 6, no car turned onto my street. I told myself not to react. People ran a few minutes late. Traffic happened, phones died, airports delayed luggage. 1,000 ordinary things could explain 10 minutes. At 6:15, Emma stopped pretending to read and looked out the front window. At 6:30, Jack asked for a snack. At 6:45, I called Michael. No answer. I left a message, my voice even. Michael, it's Mom. It's 6:45. You and Ashley were supposed to pick up the children at 6. Please call me immediately. Then I called Ashley. It rang twice and went to voicemail. I did not leave a message. I sent a text instead because written words had become necessary. It is 6:48 p.m. You are expected at 6 p.m. to pick up Emma and Jack. Please confirm your arrival time immediately. I took a screenshot. Helen had told me paper stayed calm. Apparently screenshots did too. At 7:10, Michael finally texted. Trying to reach Ashley. Sorry, Mom, that was all. Trying to reach Ashley, as if he were a neighbour, not their father. I stared at the words until they blurred. Emma watched me from the sofa. Is Dad coming? He's trying to figure out the plan, I said. It was not a lie, but it was thinner than truth. At 7:45, I fed the children grilled cheese and tomato soup. Their bags remained by the front door, like small witnesses. At 8:03, Ashley texted, Flight changed. Keep them another few days. No apology, no explanation, no request. Keep them another few days. I felt something cold and clean move through my chest. I went to my laptop and checked the flights from Miami to Columbus. Then I checked the airline Ashley had mentioned days earlier in passing, back when she was bragging about how she had found a surprisingly good deal. There were delays that evening, yes. There always were somewhere, but no cancellation that matched her claim. No flight change that would explain another few days. I called Michael again. This time he answered. "Mom," he said, and the exhaustion in his voice was immediate. "Where are you at home? Why are you at home when your children are here?" A pause. I thought Ashley was handling the pickup. "Your children are not luggage, Michael. They do not get handled by whoever remembers first." "I know, Mom. Do you silence?" Behind me, Jack asked Emma if he had to go to school tomorrow if his parents were still not there. Emma told him to be quiet, but gently, like she had too much practice soothing people. I lowered my voice. "Ashley says her flight changed, and I should keep them another few days." Michael exhaled shakily. "She said that yes. She told me she might stay longer if the Miami thing went well." "The Miami thing?" Another pause. Then he said, "I'll come in the morning." "No," I said. The word surprised us both. "No," he repeated. "No, you will come tonight, or you will tell me exactly why you cannot." "Mum, it's late, and the kids are already settled." The kids were settled at 6 too. That did not stop their mother from ignoring the agreement. He was quiet again. I could almost see him sitting in that beautiful house Ashley had decorated, surrounded by bills he did not want to open and decisions he did not want to make. "I had a fight with her," he admitted finally. "About what money, the trip, everything. Did you know she planned to stay longer? I knew she wanted to. I told her no, but you did not tell me. I didn't think she'd actually do it." There it was. The sentence weak people use when someone else's selfishness becomes predictable. I closed my eyes. "Michael, listen carefully. I will keep Emma and Jack safe tonight because they are my grandchildren and because they did nothing wrong. But tomorrow morning you will come here at 9 o'clock. Alone, okay? We are going to talk. Not around the children, not by text. In person. Mom, 9 o'clock. I hung up before he could soften me. Then I texted both him and Ashley. For Emma and Jack's safety, I will keep them tonight. Michael will come tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. to discuss arrangements in person. This cannot remain open-ended. Ashley did not respond. Michael replied, "Okay," just one word, but it was the first time all week he had agreed without asking me to absorb more. That night, the children were harder to settle. Jack wanted to know whether Mommy forgot them. Emma snapped at him and said, "Don't say that." Then she burst into tears because she knew he had said aloud what she was afraid to think. I sat between them on the guest bed and held them both. "No one forgot you," I said, though my own heart fought me on the words. "The grown-ups are working out grown-up things. Tonight, you are here, you are safe. And tomorrow, you will go to school, just like normal." Emma wiped her cheeks with her sleeve. "Is Grandma mad?" I took a breath. Grandma is upset with some choices. But a grandma is not mad at you. Jack leaned against my side. "Are we hard to take care of?" I kissed his forehead. "You are not hard to love." He fell asleep holding my hand. After I was sure they were resting, I went to the kitchen and opened The Cost of Nothing. My handwriting was firmer now. Sunday, 6 p.m. No pickup. 6:45 p.m. Called Michael, no answer. 6:48 p.m. Texted Ashley. 7:10 p.m. Michael texted, trying to reach Ashley. 8:03 p.m. Ashley texted, flight changed. Keep them another few days. No apology. No confirmed return. No emergency details. Checked flight information. No matching cancellation found. Phone call with Michael. He admitted Ashley had discussed staying longer if Miami thing went well. He did not inform me. A meeting set for Monday, 9 a.m. I stared at the last line. Meeting set. It sounded official, because it was. The next morning, Michael arrived at 9:07. I did not miss the 7 minutes. He looked worse than I had imagined. His shirt was wrinkled, his hair uncombed, and there were shadows under his eyes. He stood on my porch, holding a paper coffee cup he had not drunk from. For a second, I saw the little boy who used to come into my room after nightmares. The part of me that was his mother wanted to pull him inside and say it was all right. But another part of me, the part that had been growing stronger page by page in that notebook, knew it was not all right. Emma and Jack were already at school. I had arranged the morning carefully so this conversation would not unfold in front of them. "Come in," I said. He stepped into the kitchen, glanced at the table, and saw the folder waiting there. The cost of nothing family copy. His face changed. "Mum, what is that? Sit down." "Michael?" He sat. I placed 3 things in front of him: Ashley's printed schedule, the text screenshots, and my summary of the week. He did not touch them at first. I poured coffee for both of us. My hands were steady. Then I sat across from him and said, "Tell me the truth." He rubbed his face. "About what? Do not insult me by asking that." His shoulders sagged. For a long time he stared at the table. When he finally spoke, his voice was low. "She's in trouble! With money!" He nodded. "Credit cards, personal loans, some online business coaching thing, clothes, trips, photo shoots. She keeps saying it's an investment, that she has to look successful before success comes. How much I don't know all of it." "Michael, I don't," he snapped, then immediately looked ashamed. "I'm sorry. I don't know because she hides things. I find out when something gets declined or when a letter comes." I thought of the debt recovery envelope. She told Emma that grandmothers always pay if things get bad. His face crumpled. She said that to Emma. Emma repeated it at my dinner table. He covered his mouth with one hand. For the first time, I saw not avoidance, but horror. I continued. "Mrs. Alvarez is concerned about Emma." Jack had a fever, and neither you nor Ashley answered promptly. Ashley did not provide hotel or flight information. She did not pick up the children, as agreed. And you, their father, thought she was handling it. Tears filled his eyes. "I know. No, Michael. I need you to understand. Knowing is not the same as changing." He nodded quickly like a child in trouble. "I've been scared," he whispered. "Of Ashley. Of losing everything. The house, the kids, my marriage. I thought if I kept things calm, maybe she'd settle down. And was it calm for Emma?" He flinched. "Was it calm for Jack? No. Was it calm for me?" His tears spilled then. "I'm sorry, Mum." I looked at him, and my heart ached with a complicated love. "I believe you are sorry," I said, "but I am done being the place where your fear sends its consequences." He lowered his head. "I don't know what to do." "Yes, you do," I said. "You begin by being a father before you are a frightened husband." He looked up. I slid a blank paper toward him. "These are my terms." "Not because I don't love you. Because I do. Because I love Emma and Jack. Because I finally love myself enough to stop pretending this is normal." He swallowed. I listed them clearly. No more unplanned drop-offs. All childcare requests must be made in advance, and I have the right to say no. Emergency contact information must be provided whenever the children are with me. You will take responsibility for school pickup schedules. You will attend the family meeting when Ashley returns. You will speak, not hide. You will find a counsellor for yourself and for those children if needed. Michael read the list. Then he picked up the pen. His hand shook as he signed the bottom. It was not a legal contract, not exactly. Helen would have called it a written family agreement. But to me, it was something larger. It was the first time my son acknowledged that my life was not an endless storage room for his unresolved problems. When he finished, he whispered, "What happens when Ashley comes back?" I gathered the papers and placed them back in the folder. Then I said she learns what nothing costs. After Michael signed that paper, the house felt different. Not peaceful exactly. Peace was still too far away for that. But something had shifted, and I could feel it in the quiet after he left. For the first time in years, my son had not asked me to make his life easier by making myself smaller. He had sat at my kitchen table, looked at the truth, and put his name beneath it. That did not fix everything. It did not erase Ashley's words. It did not return the hours I had lost, the weekends I had surrendered, or the dignity I had swallowed with every forced smile. It did not magically make Michael brave. But it was a beginning, and beginnings matter. That afternoon, after I picked up Emma and Jack from school, I moved carefully through the rest of the day. I made macaroni and cheese because Jack asked for it with the seriousness of a man requesting his final meal. I helped Emma practice her spelling words. I let them build a blanket fort in the living room, even though Ashley's schedule said quiet reading time from 4:30 to 5 o'clock. Ashley's schedule, I was beginning to understand, had never truly been about the children. It was about control from a distance. She wanted to leave and still command the room. She wanted freedom without responsibility. She wanted motherhood arranged like a hotel service, invisible when inconvenient, available when needed, and never allowed to complain. After the children went to sleep that night, I returned to the kitchen table with my folder, my notebook, my calculator, and a yellow legal pad. Outside the window, the backyard sat dark and still. My reflection looked back at me from the glass grey hair pinned loosely, reading glasses low on my nose, shoulders tired but straight. I opened the notebook to the first page. The cost of nothing. For a long time, I simply stared at those words. Then I began. I listed the obvious things first. Groceries, gas, medicine, toothpaste, laundry detergent, extra school supplies for Emma's project, fever reducer, tissues, children's snacks, a replacement pair of mittens for Jack because one had vanished somewhere between preschool and my car. Then I listed the hours. Monday morning, drop-off without confirmed agreement. Monday, breakfast, school transportation, dinner baths, bedtime. Tuesday, fever care. Wednesday, laundry and school project help. Thursday, phone calls and pickup. Friday, emotional support after Emma's worry about money. Saturday, full day care. Sunday, missed pickup. Sunday, overnight extension. Monday, school transportation, again because Ashley still had not returned. When I first wrote the hours down, I estimated them the way most women do, modestly, almost apologetically. But then I stopped myself. Why was I shrinking even on paper? Why was I rounding down the labour no one respected? If a stranger had done this work, they would have charged for every hour. If a nanny had been called last minute for overnight care meals, school transportation, sick care, homework help, and emotional support, no one would have expected her to smile and say, "Oh, don't worry, I have nothing else to do." So I searched online for average childcare rates in the Columbus area. I looked at overnight care rates, transportation fees, last-minute care, sick child care. I did not choose the highest numbers. I did not want exaggeration. Exaggeration would weaken the truth. I chose fair numbers. Then I calculated. The total startled me, not because I intended to demand every dollar from Ashley. I did not. Money was not the point. But seeing the number made my hands go still. All those little favors, all that grandma time, all that invisible labor, people dismissed because it came wrapped in love. It had measurable value, and that did not even include the emotional cost. How does a woman charge for hearing her grandson ask if he is hard to take care of? How do you calculate the price of watching your granddaughter apologize for needing love? How do you invoice the silence of your own son? I turned to a clean page and wrote, "The cost of nothing includes what money can count and what the heart should never have been asked to pay." Then I made a more formal version. At the top, I wrote "The Cost of Nothing prepared by Brooke Nelson," regarding the care of Emma Nelson and Jack Nelson under it. I organized the information into sections. 1. Childcare hours. 2. Transportation. 3. Meals and supplies. 4. Medical care and sick care. 5. School communication and homework support. 6. Emotional care and stability. 7. Missed parental communication. 8. Boundary violations. That last one made me pause. Boundary violations. The phrase sounded almost too official for my kitchen table, but it was accurate. Ashley had not merely asked too much. She had crossed lines and then mocked me for noticing the lines existed. I printed screenshots of her messages. "Don't be dramatic. You're lucky we let you feel needed. Flight changed. Keep them another few days." I printed my own messages too, so no one could say I had hidden my tone. Mine were calm, clear, almost painfully polite. Then I added the family agreement Michael had signed. For nearly 2 hours I built the document, not with rage, not with cruelty, with the same careful thoroughness I had once used for school reports, teacher evaluations, and child safety plans. When I finished, I read through it once. Then I wrote one sentence at the bottom. Nothing is what people call women's work when they do not want to respect it. I sat back, and for the first time all week, I felt something close to strength. The next morning, while Emma was at school and Jack was at preschool, I called Helen. I finished the folder, I told her. "Good," she said. "How does it look sad?" "That means it's honest." "I don't want Ashley to think I'm trying to humiliate her." Helen gave a dry little laugh. "Brooke Ashley humiliated you in front of dinner guests and children. Accountability is not humiliation. It only feels that way to people who expected secrecy." I looked at the folder on the table. "I want a family meeting when she comes back. With Michael present, yes. And the children absent. Absolutely." "Good." I hesitated. "I'm thinking of inviting Patricia." There was a pause. Ashley's mother. "Yes. Why?" "Because Ashley has been telling stories. I think Patricia believes I ask to keep the children because I'm lonely." Helen was quiet for a moment. "That may be wise, but be careful. This is not about gathering an audience. It's about preventing Ashley from controlling the narrative. That's exactly why I want her there. Then invite her respectfully. Tell her it concerns the well-being of Emma and Jack, and that you believe she should hear it directly. What about you? Do you want me there as a friend or as legal muscle, as a witness?" I said, "And as someone who can keep me from falling apart." Her voice softened. "Then I'll be there." Calling Patricia Moore was not easy. I had only met Ashley's mother a handful of times. Patricia lived in Cincinnati, about an hour and a half away, and Ashley often described her as simple in a tone that made my skin prickle. The Patricia I remembered was soft-spoken, with kind eyes and hands that looked like they had worked hard for many years. She brought crocheted blankets for the children and always asked if she could help clear dishes. I found her number in an old Christmas card and sat with the phone in my hand for several minutes before dialing. She answered warmly. "Brooke, is everything all right?" That question nearly undid me. "I hope it will be," I said. "Patricia Ashley is still in Miami, and Emma and Jack have been with me longer than planned. There are some things we need to discuss as a family when she returns. I believe you should be there." Her silence sharpened. "Are the children hurt?" "No, they are safe. I promise you that." Then what happened, I closed my eyes. I would rather not explain it all by phone. But I think there are things Ashley may not have told you truthfully. Patricia sighed, and in that sigh, I heard exhaustion I recognized. "She told me you wanted the children this week," he said. "She said you begged for time with them because you get lonely." There it was, the lie spoken plainly. My hand tightened around the phone. "No," I said quietly. "That is not what happened." Patricia did not defend Ashley. That told me something. When she asked, "When Ashley returns, I'll let you know the time." "I'll come," she said. After we hung up, I sat still for a long moment. The web Ashley had spun was wider than I knew. She had not simply taken advantage of my love. She had rewritten it for other people, turning my sacrifice into neediness, so she could remain generous in her own story. That afternoon, while putting fresh towels in the guest bathroom, I noticed something odd. And my jewellery box drawer was slightly open. At first, I thought I had left it that way. I had been tired all week. My mind had been full. But when I stepped closer, unease moved through me. The small blue velvet box was not where I usually kept it. I pulled open the drawer fully. The box was there, but when I lifted it, it felt too light. I opened it. Empty. For a few seconds, I could not understand what I was seeing. The pearl necklace was gone. Thomas had given me that necklace on our 25th wedding anniversary. We had not been wealthy people, not then. He had saved for months, taking extra carpentry work on weekends, pretending he was helping a friend repair cabinets, when really he was building up enough money to buy me something he said I deserved. I wore it to Michael's wedding. I wore it to Thomas's funeral. After that, I rarely wore it at all. Not because I did not love it, but because some things become too full of memory to touch casually. I searched the drawer, then the dresser, then the bathroom. I checked the closet shelf, the little dish by my bed, the old cedar box. And nothing. My hands began to shake. I sat on the edge of the bed holding the empty velvet box. Then, like a whisper from some ugly corner of instinct, I thought of Ashley. No, surely not. Ashley was selfish, entitled, careless. But taking that necklace, I stood and went to my computer. Ashley had posted photos from Miami every day. I had avoided looking at most of them because each one felt like salt in the wound. But now, I opened her profile with a sick heaviness in my chest. There she was beside a rooftop pool, one hand on her hip, sunglasses tilted down, captioned, "Finally free from mom life." I stared at the words first. Finally free from Emma's careful little face, from Jack's fever, from the children sleeping under my roof because their mother wanted applause from strangers. Then my eyes moved to her neck. Pearls. My pearls. Thomas's pearls. The room went strangely silent around me. I enlarged the photo. There was no mistake. I knew the small silver clasp. I knew the uneven glow of the center pearl, where Thomas had once joked it looked real, like us, not perfect enough to be fake. Ashley was wearing my dead husband's gift while celebrating being free from her children. For a moment, grief and anger rose so fast, I thought I might be sick. I wanted to call her. I wanted to scream. I wanted to ask how much of a person's life she believed she was entitled to take. Instead, I did what I had learned to do. I took a screenshot. Then I printed the photo. I placed it in the folder behind the empty velvet box, which I wrapped carefully in tissue and set on the dining room table. The plan had changed. Not in purpose, but in weight. This was no longer only about childcare. It was no longer only about Ashley's insults, or Michael's silence, or the hidden labour of grandmothers. It was about truth. It was about the way some people take until they mistake access for ownership. That evening, Emma asked why I looked sad. I touched her hair and said, I found out something that hurt me. Can I fix it? No, sweetheart, I said. This is grown-up work. And for the first time, I felt the full meaning of those words. Grown-up work. Not the work Ashley performed for social media. Not the performance of motherhood. The real work. Telling the truth. Protecting children. Setting boundaries. And facing the people you love when they have learned to use you. I looked at the folder on the table after the children went to bed. The cost of nothing. Beside it sat the empty velvet box. Ashley thought I would notice nothing. She was wrong. I had started noticing everything. Ashley came back on a Thursday evening, as if she were returning from a spa weekend, not from abandoning her children, past the agreed time. I heard the car before I saw it. By then, I had learned that certain sounds could change the temperature of a room. A door closing too hard. A phone buzzing after midnight. Michael clearing his throat instead of speaking. That evening, the tyres crunching against my driveway gravel made my shoulders tighten before my mind caught up. Emma and Jack were not in the dining room. I had made sure of that. Michael had picked them up from school and taken them to his house for a few hours while I prepared. That, too, had been part of the new agreement. Their father needed to begin acting like their father, even if it was uncomfortable. Even if he had spent years letting everyone else fill the spaces where his courage should have been. At 6 o'clock, Michael brought them back and walked them upstairs to the small spare room I had turned into a movie corner for the evening. I set out popcorn apple slices and blankets. Emma was old enough to sense tension in the walls. So before she asked, I knelt in front of both children. Tonight, I said the grown-ups are going to talk. Emma's eyes moved toward the stairs. About Mommy, yes. Jack hugged his dinosaur to his chest. Is she mad? I don't know, I said honestly. But you are not responsible for any grown-up feelings tonight. You will stay upstairs with your movie. Your daddy will check on you. And if you need me, you call me. Emma studied my face with that careful, heartbreaking wisdom of hers. Are you safe, Grandma Brooke? The question nearly undid me. Children should not have to wonder if their grandmother is safe from their mother's anger. I took both her hands. Yes, sweetheart. I am safe, and so are you. Now, as Ashley's car door slammed outside, I looked around the dining room one last time. The table was not decorated the way Ashley would have done it. No candles. No flowers arranged for admiration. No shining plates meant to impress guests. Just a clean wooden table, and the truth laid out in neat stacks. The folder labelled "The Cost of Nothing" sat in the centre. Beside it were printed screenshots, receipts, my handwritten timeline, Michael's signed family agreement, and the empty blue velvet box that had once held Thomas's pearl necklace. I had placed the printed photo of Ashley wearing the pearls face down beneath it. I wanted to give her one chance to tell the truth before the image did it for her. Helen Carter sat to my left, calm and straight-backed with a legal pad closed in front of her. She was not there to threaten anyone. She had made that clear. She was there as a witness, as my friend, and as the person in the room least likely to be fooled by tears used as tools. Patricia Moore sat across from Helen Hands, folded tightly in her lap. She had driven from Cincinnati that afternoon. When she arrived, she hugged me longer than expected and whispered, "I don't know what my daughter has done, but I'm sorry you sounded so tired on the phone." That one sentence had almost made me cry. Michael stood near the kitchen doorway, looking pale. He had dressed like a man going to a job interview he feared he would fail. Clean shirt, tucked in, hair combed, but his hands gave him away. He kept rubbing his thumb against his wedding ring. At 6:37, Ashley opened my front door without knocking. That was her first mistake of the evening. She stepped in carrying shopping bags. Not the children's bags. Shopping bags. Glossy ones with rope handles, the kind that made people feel expensive just holding them. She wore white jeans, a tan blazer, and large sunglasses pushed up into her hair. Her skin was sun-kissed. Her nails were freshly done in a pale pink. There was a gold bracelet on her wrist I had never seen before. For one absurd second, I noticed she smelled like coconut and airport perfume. "Okay," she called from the entryway. "I am exhausted." "Where are the kids?" No hello, no apology. No thank you for keeping my children alive and loved, while I extended my trip without permission. I stepped into the hall. They're upstairs watching a movie. Ashley glanced at me, then at the dining room behind me. Her smile faltered when she saw Patricia. "Mom," she said. Patricia stood slowly. "Hello, Ashley." Ashley's eyes moved to Helen, then Michael, then the table. The air sharpened. "What is this?" Ashley asked, her voice changing. "An intervention." I looked at her shopping bags. "No," I said. "It's an accounting." She laughed, but there was no ease in it. "Of what?" "Of the week you left your children with me." Ashley rolled her eyes and dropped her bags near the wall. "I did not leave them. They were with their grandmother." After being dropped off without agreement, Helen said evenly. Ashley looked her up and down. "And you are Helen Carter, Brooke's friend. Convenient." Helen did not react. Ashley turned back to me. "Brooke, if you wanted to be dramatic, you could have just called." "I did call," I said. "I texted. I asked for emergency information. I asked when you would return. You chose not to answer clearly." Ashley waved her hand as if brushing away a fly. "I was traveling. Things were hectic." Patricia's voice was quiet. "You told me Brooke asked to keep the children." Ashley froze for a fraction of a second. Then she smiled. That smile had rescued her from small consequences for years, I imagined. "Mum, don't start. Brooke loves the kids. She gets lonely. I was trying to make everyone happy." The lie sounded so smooth that, had I not lived the truth, I might have admired the craftsmanship. Patricia's eyes filled with pain. "Did she ask Ashley?" Ashley did not answer. I gestured toward the dining room. "Please sit down." "I don't need to sit down in my mother-in-law's court." Michael stepped forward. His voice shook, but he spoke. "Sit down, Ashley." She looked at him as if he had slapped her. "What did you just say?" He swallowed. "We need to talk." "Oh, now you talk," she snapped. "After letting your mother build some little case against me." I watched Michael flinch. For a moment, I thought he might retreat the way he always had. I saw the old habit in his eyes, the instinct to smooth things over, to calm Ashley by sacrificing the nearest available truth. But then his gaze moved toward the stairs. "Toward the children." And he straightened. No, he said. Mom took care of our children while you disappeared. The word landed hard. Disappeared. Ashley's face flushed. I was in Miami for work. What work, he asked. My brand. Ashley, he said, voice breaking you stayed in a luxury hotel while Jack had a fever, and Emma thought she was too expensive to love. For the first time, her confidence cracked. Only slightly. But enough. She what? I opened the folder. You might want to hear what your children have been carrying, I said. Ashley's lips pressed together. Do not use my children against me. I am not using them, I said. I am listening to them. There is a difference. Helen gave the smallest nod. I began with the timeline. Not the necklace, not the debt, not the cruelest messages. The children first. I read the facts in a calm voice. Monday drop-off without agreement. No hotel details, no flight details. Jack's fever, no response for over an hour. Nurse line contacted Emma's teacher, concerned about inconsistent pickup. Sunday pickup, missed Ashley's message, instructing me to keep the children another few days. Ashley interrupted, at least 6 times. That's out of context. You're making it sound worse. I knew Jack wasn't seriously sick. Michael was supposed to handle pickup. I didn't abandon anyone. Each time Helen quietly said, "Let her finish." And each time Ashley grew more irritated. Then I slid the first printed screenshot across the table. Don't be dramatic. You're lucky we let you feel needed. Patricia covered her mouth. Ashley snatched the paper up. That was a joke? No, Michael said quietly. It wasn't. She turned on him. You're really doing this in front of my mother. Patricia's tears spilled then. Ashley, you told me Brooke begged for the children. Ashley threw up her hands. Because she acts like she wants them all the time. I leaned forward. I want my grandchildren loved. I want them safe. I want them welcome in my home. That does not mean I consent to being ordered, insulted, lied to, and used. Ashley laughed bitterly. Used? You are their grandmother. Yes, I said. Not your employee? The room went silent. I turned the folder around and showed her the summary page of the cost of nothing. Childcare hours, transportation, meals, supplies, medical care, school communication, overnight care, emotional labor, missed parental communication. Ashley scanned it, and then her expression twisted. You made an invoice, she said. Are you serious? It is not an invoice. It has numbers on it. Yes. So what now you want to charge us for loving your grandkids? That one almost reached me. Almost. Because guilt had always been the hand Ashley used to push my head underwater. But I had prepared for that. No, I said. I put numbers on it because you called it nothing. I wanted you to see what nothing would cost if a stranger did it. Her eyes narrowed. This is pathetic! Michael's voice rose. No, Ashley. What's pathetic is that my mother had to document basic respect. Ashley stood abruptly. I'm not listening to this. Sit down, Patricia said. Ashley stared at her mother. It may have been the first time Patricia had ever used that tone with her. You too, Ashley whispered. Patricia wiped her cheeks. I raised you better than this. Ashley's face hardened. You raised me to struggle. Excuse me if I wanted more. The cruelty of that sentence seemed to strike Patricia physically. She sat back as if the air had been pushed from her lungs. I saw it then clearly. Ashley's contempt was not reserved for me. It was not a mother-in-law problem. It was not even a family conflict in the ordinary sense. Ashley looked down on anyone whose life did not serve the image she wanted to build. Her mother was too simple. I was too old. Michael was too weak. Her children were too inconvenient. And she was always the victim of everyone else's failure to keep her shining. I reached for the blue velvet box. Ashley's eyes flicked to it. Just once. But I saw it. Ashley, I said softly, there is one more thing we need to discuss. Her jaw tightened. I don't know what that is. I haven't asked yet. I said I don't know. I placed my hand on top of the box. This belonged to Thomas, I said. Or rather, the necklace inside it did. He gave it to me on our 25th anniversary. Patricia looked confused. Michael looked up sharply. Ashley looked toward the front door. That was when I knew. She had come prepared to deny the childcare problem, dismiss the messages, blame stress cry if necessary, rage if cornered. But she had not expected the pearls. Not that night. Not on that table. I kept my voice calm. The box is empty, I said. And before we go any further, I'm going to ask you once respectfully. Do you know where my pearl necklace is? Ashley lifted her chin. No, she said. Maybe you misplaced it. You know how memory gets with age. The room went so still. I could hear the upstairs movie playing faintly through the ceiling. Michael whispered, Ashley. But I did not look away from her. There it was again. Not just theft. Not just denial. The old weapon make Brooke feel old, confused, unreliable. I nodded slowly. Then I reached into the folder and touched the printed Miami photo beneath the papers. Ashley followed my hand with her eyes. For the first time that evening, real fear entered her face. And I understood then that the cost of nothing was about to become far more expensive than she had ever imagined. I let my fingers rest on the edge of the printed photo for one long second before I pulled it from the folder. Ashley watched the paper as if it were a living thing. The room was silent, except for the faint sound of the children's movie drifting down from upstairs. Some cheerful cartoon voice was singing about friendship, while the adults below sat around my dining table with years of denial spread between us. I placed the photo in the center of the table, Ashley at a rooftop pool in Miami. Her head turned slightly, one hand touching her sunglasses, the ocean blurred behind her. Around her neck, unmistakable even in the glossy print, was my pearl necklace. Thomas's pearl necklace, the one he had saved for, the one he had fastened around my neck with trembling hands on our 25th anniversary, while telling me he wished he could give me the whole world. Michael reached for the photo first. His face changed the moment he saw it. Not anger first, shame, then disbelief, then a slow rising fury I had rarely seen in him. Ashley? He said, his voice low. Tell me this is not Mum's necklace. Ashley crossed her arms. It looks like a pearl necklace. Lots of people own pearls. I almost admired how quickly she lied. Almost. Patricia leaned forward, squinting at the photo. Ashley, I saw Brooke wear those pearls at your wedding. Ashley gave a sharp laugh. Mum, please, you wouldn't know one necklace from another. I know that one, Patricia said quietly, because I remember thinking Thomas must have loved her very much. The words hit me unexpectedly. I looked down at my hands, blinking hard. Ashley rolled her eyes, but she was cornered now. I could see it in the small movements, the fingers tapping against her arm, the tightness around her mouth, the way she kept glancing toward the front door. I opened the blue velvet box and turned it toward her. This box was in my jewelry drawer, I said. The necklace was inside it the last time I wore it. When I checked after seeing your photo, it was gone. Ashley shook her head. You are making a huge accusation based on a picture. I am asking for my property back. It's not your property if you gave it to me. Michael's head snapped up. She gave it to you. Ashley hesitated. There it was, a crack. She said I could borrow jewelry whenever Ashley said quickly, back when we were planning the wedding. I looked at her steadily. I said you could borrow my pearl earrings for the rehearsal dinner. You returned them the next day. I never gave you permission to take that necklace. Ashley's face flushed. Fine, I borrowed it. Patricia closed her eyes. Michael whispered without asking. Ashley turned on him. Oh, don't act morally superior. Your mother barely wears it. It was sitting in a drawer. A strange calm settled over me. That was the second wound, sometimes deeper than the first. Not only that she had taken it, but that she believed unused things were available to anyone bold enough to want them. As if grief had to be visible every day to be valid. As if memory lost value when stored safely away. Borrowing requires asking, I said. Ashley looked away. And returning, Helen added. Ashley shot her a glare. Nobody asked you. Helen folded her hands. Brooke did. Michael stood, then sat again as if he did not know what to do with his body. Where is it now? Ashley's silence told me she had not expected that question. Ashley? He repeated sharper this time. Where is my mother's necklace? It's in my suitcase, she snapped. God, you're all acting like I robbed a bank. No, I said. You robbed a memory. That finally silenced her. For a brief moment, I thought I saw something like shame pass across her face. But it vanished so quickly I could not be sure. Then footsteps sounded on the stairs. Tiny, careful footsteps. Emma appeared near the dining room doorway in her socks, her eyes wide. She must have heard the raised voices despite the movie. Grandma, she said. I turned immediately. Sweetheart, go back upstairs. I'll come in a minute. But Emma was staring at the photo on the table. Her face changed when she saw it. Mommy, she said softly. That's the necklace you wore in Miami. Ashley stiffened. Emma, go upstairs. Emma did not move. Then in the small voice of a child, repeating something she did not fully understand, she said, You said Grandma wouldn't notice because old people forget. No one spoke, not even Ashley. If the photo had cracked her defense, Emma's words shattered it. Michael looked as if someone had taken the air from his lungs. Patricia began to cry silently. And God help me, I wanted to cover Emma's ears from her own truth. I wanted to gather that child into my arms and erase every careless, ugly sentence she had ever heard from adults who should have known better. Ashley found her voice first. Emma, that is not what I meant. Emma's eyes filled with tears. You said it in the hotel room. On the phone. You said Grandma forgets stuff. And she has so many old lady things. Ashley stood so fast her chair scraped backward. That is enough. Upstairs, now! Michael moved before I did. No, he said. Ashley stared at him. He crossed to Emma and knelt in front of her. His voice shook, but it was gentle. Honey, go upstairs with Jack. Grandma and I will come check on you soon. Emma looked at me. I nodded. It's okay, sweetheart. Only then did she turn and climb back upstairs. When she was gone, Michael remained kneeling for a moment. Then he stood slowly and faced his wife. I cannot believe she heard you say that. Ashley threw up her hands. Oh, so now I'm a monster. Because I vented Mother's vent. People say things. You say things to our children, he said. About my mother, about money, about them being expensive, about Grandma paying if things get bad. Ashley's expression sharpened. What did Brooke tell you? What Emma told her. She is 8. She is old enough to be hurt, I said. Ashley looked at me with sudden hatred. You have been poisoning them against me. That old accusation, so predictable, almost tired me. No, I said. You left them with me long enough for them to breathe. Helen made a small sound, almost approval. Michael returned to his chair, but he did not sit. He placed both palms on the table, leaning forward. Tell them about the credit cards, he said. Ashley's eyes flashed. Do not start. We are already started. This is private. So was my mother's jewellery drawer. That struck home. Ashley's mouth tightened. Patricia looked from one to the other. What credit cards? Michael looked exhausted, but there was no turning back now. Ashley opened cards I didn't know about. Store cards, travel cards, personal lines of credit. She said it was for her business. My brand, Ashley snapped. Michael laughed once, and it sounded broken. Your brand is pictures of things we can't afford. Ashley recoiled, as if he had betrayed a sacred dream. You never believed in me. I believed every time you told me the next course would help. The next trip would connect you with the right people. The next photo shoot would grow your audience. The next outfit was an investment. I believed until bills started coming to the house, and you hid them. Patricia's hand went to her chest. Ashley's voice rose. Don't look at me like that. All of you act like wanting more is a crime. I didn't want to live some small life clipping coupons and pretending casserole is happiness. The insult was aimed at all of us, but especially at Patricia and me. I thought of the casseroles I'd carried into homes after funerals, birth surgeries, and loneliness. I thought of how many people had been held together by simple food, made by tired hands. There is nothing small, I said quietly, about caring for people. Ashley looked at me with contempt. Easy to say when your life is already over. Michael's face hardened. Stop. She looked startled by his tone. He continued, Mom's life is not over, and she is not your safety net. Ashley turned away, breathing hard. I knew then we had reached the money. I opened the folder again and pulled out a copy of the document from years ago when I had helped Michael and Ashley buy their house. Thomas was already gone by then, and I had used part of a conservative investment account he left me, not because I had to, but because I wanted my son's family to have stability. At the time, Helen had insisted we put the contribution in writing. Michael had been embarrassed. Ashley had been irritated. I had nearly refused thinking family should not need paperwork. Helen had said, family is exactly why you need paperwork. Love makes people forget details when money gets inconvenient. Thank God I had listened. I placed the document on the table. Ashley saw it and frowned. What is that, the agreement regarding the down payment assistance I provided for your house? Michael looked at it, then at me. He knew. Ashley did not. I said the money I contributed was to support a stable home for Emma and Jack. It was not a blank gift to be absorbed into personal debt, caused by concealed financial decisions. Ashley scoffed. You gave us that money years ago. Yes, I'd seed, with terms. She reached for the paper and began reading. As her eyes moved down the page, the colour drained from her face. The agreement stated that if the property was sold or refinanced under conditions involving undisclosed personal debt or financial misrepresentation affecting the children's stability, the amount I had contributed would be repaid into an education trust for Emma and Jack before any discretionary use of proceeds. Ashley looked up slowly. This is ridiculous. Helen spoke calmly. It is signed. Ashley turned to Michael. You signed this. You did too, he said. I didn't read all that legal garbage. Helen's eyebrows lifted slightly. That does not make it disappear. Ashley pushed the paper away. So this is what it's about? Money. Brooke wants her money. No, I said. I want my grandchildren protected from your spending. My spending, she shouted. I was trying to build something for this family. Then why did Emma think she was expensive? I asked. Ashley opened her mouth, then closed it. Why did Jack ask if he was hard to take care of? She looked away. Why did you leave them beyond the agreed time and not provide emergency information? No answer. Why were you wearing my necklace? Still nothing. For the first time that night, Ashley had no story ready. Michael's voice was quieter when he spoke again. You wanted to sell the house. Patricia gasped. Ashley spun toward him. I said refinance. You said if Mum really cared about the kids, she would help. You said grandmothers always cave when children are involved. My stomach turned, even though I already knew. There is a difference between suspecting you are being targeted and hearing the plan spoken aloud. Ashley pressed her lips together. I looked at her, and in that moment, I saw clearly what I had been refusing to see. She had not only assumed my time was hers, she had assumed my savings, my memories, my grief, and my love for the children were all resources she could draw from when her fantasy life came due. I closed the folder gently. Ashley, I said, I will never let Emma and Jack go hungry. I will never let them go without medicine, school supplies, or a safe place to sleep if I can help it. But I will not finance disrespect. I will not pay for lies. And I will not allow my love for those children to become the rope you use to pull me into your debt. Her eyes burned with tears now, but they were angry tears. You think you're so noble, she whispered, sitting there judging me. No, I said. I think I'm 68 years old and finally tired of pretending theft is borrowing neglect, is stress, and silence is peace. Michael sat down heavily. Patricia looked at her daughter as if seeing both the child she had raised and the woman she had become, and not knowing how to hold both at once. Helen remained still, but I could feel her support beside me like a wall. Ashley looked around the room, her mother crying, her husband broken, her mother-in-law calm, her lies printed in black and white. For 1 second, I thought she might apologize. Not fully, not beautifully, but perhaps one honest sentence might escape her. Instead, she lifted her chin. You are all going to regret humiliating me. And just like that, the sorrow in the room hardened into something more dangerous. Because Ashley was not finished. She had only changed strategies. Ashley's voice changed after that. It was not louder at first. That would have been easier. Loud anger fills a room quickly, but quiet anger crawls under the door and waits. She stood near my dining table with her arms crossed her face, pale beneath her Miami tan, and looked at each of us as if we had committed some unforgivable betrayal by noticing what she had done. You all planned this? She said. No one answered immediately. I had learned long ago that some accusations are not meant to be answered. They are meant to drag you into a swamp where facts become feelings, and the person with the most outrage declares victory. Ashley turned to Michael first. You let your mother do this to me. Michael looked exhausted, but something had steadied in him. Maybe it was Emma's little voice repeating what Ashley had said about old people forgetting. Maybe it was seeing my empty velvet box on the table. Maybe it was simply the moment a man finally recognizes that avoiding a fire does not stop his house from burning. "No," he said. "You did this." Ashley's mouth opened slightly. He had never spoken to her that way in front of me. For years, Michael's role in conflict had been to soften, excuse, redirect, and eventually surrender. Ashley knew that version of him. She had built parts of her life around it, but this Michael, pale and shaking though he was, did not look away. Ashley laughed sharply. "You sound just like her now. If that means I'm finally telling the truth, then good." Her eyes flashed. The truth is, your mother has been waiting for a chance to control our family. She never liked me. She never thought I was good enough for her precious son." I almost smiled from the sadness of it. Not because it was funny, but because the script was so familiar. When a person cannot defend their actions, they often put your motives on trial instead. "Ashley," I said, "this is not about whether I liked you. This is about what you did." "No," she snapped, pointing at me. "This is about you, wanting to be needed so badly that you created drama when I gave you exactly what you wanted." Patricia wiped her face with a tissue. "Ashley, stop." Ashley swung toward her mother. "Of course you're on her side. You always side with whoever makes me look selfish." Patricia's voice trembled. "I am on the side of my grandchildren. Oh, please." Ashley gave a bitter little smile. "You barely know what's going on. Brooke calls you, cries into the phone, and suddenly you drive here like some moral judge I came because she sounded worried. She sounded manipulative. Helen's pen, which had been still on her legal pad, moved once. Not writing, just a small sound against paper." Ashley noticed and glared. "And you," Ashley said. "What are you even doing here, sitting there like some retired courtroom witch?" Michael said, "Don't talk to Helen like that." Ashley looked back at him with disbelief. "You're defending her too." "I'm defending basic decency," she scoffed. "Basic decency would have been my family not ambushing me the minute I got home." I felt my hands tighten under the table, so I opened them slowly. "You were asked to come for a family conversation," I said. "You chose to arrive late, walk in without knocking, and dismiss everything placed in front of you. My children are upstairs in your house while you sit down here, building a case against their mother. Your children are upstairs because I refuse to let them sit in this room while adults speak cruelly." Her face hardened. Then she said the words I'd been fearing since the first page of that notebook. "You know what? You don't have to worry about them anymore. After tonight, you will never see Emma and Jack again." For a moment, every sound disappeared. I had imagined those words. In the middle of the night, while Jack coughed in the guest room and Emma slept with her stuffed rabbit tucked under her chin, I had imagined Ashley using the children as a locked door. I had prepared myself logically, legally, emotionally. But preparation does not stop pain. My chest tightened so sharply I had to press my feet into the floor to stay steady. Michael stood. "No." Ashley turned on him. "Excuse me." "No," he repeated. "You do not get to punish my mother with our children because you got caught lying. They are my children. They are ours. And you think a judge is going to side with your mother over me." Helen finally spoke. Her voice was calm, not dramatic, not threatening. That made it stronger. "No one here has mentioned a Judge Ashley." Ashley looked at her. "Stay out of this." Helen folded her hands. "I will not. Not when you are threatening to cut off a safe, loving relationship between children and their grandmother as retaliation during a documented family dispute. Ashley rolled her eyes, but I saw fear move through them. Documented, she mocked. There you go again, Helen nodded. Once. Yes, documented. Brooke has text messages confirming the children were left in her care. She has messages showing she requested emergency information and a confirmed pickup time. She has your response dismissing her concerns. She has the message stating your flight changed and instructing her to keep the children longer without asking. She has records of Jack's fever, her attempt to contact both parents, and the nurse line call. She has school concerns about inconsistent pickup. She has Michael's signed acknowledgement that future childcare must be arranged in advance. And now there are witnesses to your threat to deny contact as punishment. Ashley's face flushed deeper with every sentence. I was stressed, she said. Stress is not a defense for neglecting communication about sick children. I didn't neglect them. They were with Brooke. And yet you are angry that Brooke documented what happened while they were with her. The room went still again. Patricia looked at Helen with something like gratitude. Ashley's breathing grew faster. She turned toward me, and for the first time that night, she looked less like a woman in control and more like one searching for the next weapon. You think you're smart, she said. You think because you are some school principal, you can sit there and judge everyone. But you don't know what it's like to be me. No, I said softly. I don't. That seemed to surprise her. I continued, I do not know what it feels like to be you, but I know what it looks like when two children are afraid to be inconvenient. I know what it sounds like when a little boy asks if he is hard to care for. I know what it means when an 8-year-old believes money problems are somehow connected to whether she is loved. Ashley's eyes flicked away. Do not, I said, my voice firmer now, call that motherhood stress and expect me to not. Michael sat down slowly, his face in his hands. Patricia whispered, Ashley, you need help. Ashley's head snapped toward her. From you? That's rich. Ashley, no, really, Mom. What are you going to teach me? How to clip coupons? How to stay in the same town your whole life and call it virtue? How to smile while everyone else has nicer things? Patricia recoiled as if struck. I felt something inside me harden on her behalf. Enough, I said. Ashley looked at me. Do not confuse modesty with failure, I said. Your mother worked, sacrificed, and loved you. If you cannot recognize the dignity in that, then your problem is much deeper than debt. Ashley laughed, but tears had gathered in her eyes now. You all love acting noble because you never wanted anything bigger. I wanted a family that respected love, I said. That was big enough. For a second, she had no answer. Then she reached for her purse. Michael stood again. Where are you going? To get my kids. No, he said. The word came out stronger than before. Ashley froze. Michael walked to the base of the stairs and stood there. Not aggressively, not violently, just firmly, his body between the dining room and the children upstairs. We are not dragging them into this, he said. They're my children. They are sleeping in Grandma's house because you left them here. I came back after extending your trip without agreement. I needed time. Then you should have told the truth and asked for help. That sentence seemed to drain him. He looked at me, then at Patricia, then back at Ashley. I have been afraid of you leaving, he said. I have been afraid of conflict. I have been afraid of failing. So I let Mom carry things that were mine to carry. I let the kids live inside tension I pretended they didn't feel. That ends now. Ashley stared at him. For a moment, I saw the first real crack in her certainty. Not remorse? Not yet. But the shock of a door refusing to open the way it always had. Helen turned a page on her pad. Ashley, she said, no one here is attempting to take your children from you. But if you continue to threaten, manipulate, or remove them in anger without a safe plan, you may create exactly the kind of record you claim everyone is inventing. Ashley's lips parted. Helen's voice remained even. You are a mother. That gives you rights. It also gives you responsibilities. Tonight would be a very good time to remember both. Patricia nodded through tears. I looked at Ashley and felt the ache of everything that had led us here. I did not hate her. That almost surprised me. I hated what she had done. I hated the damage. I hated the fear in Emma's eyes and the question in Jack's voice. I hated the way she had turned my son weak and then punished him for being weak. But hatred of a person is heavy, and I was too tired to carry more than truth. So I said the thing I had needed to say for years. I am not trying to take your children, Ashley. I am trying to make sure they are not abandoned whenever motherhood becomes inconvenient. Her face changed. That sentence hit somewhere no insult had reached. She blinked quickly, then looked toward the stairs. For one brief second, I thought she might sit down. I thought she might cry honestly, not to escape consequence, but because truth had finally found a place inside her. Instead, she whispered, "You'll regret saying that." Then she lifted her phone. At first, I thought she was calling someone, a friend, a ride, maybe one of those women from Miami who had taught her to turn every wound into content. But then I saw the angle of the camera. Helen saw it too. Ashley, Helen said carefully, "Do not do that." Ashley's thumb moved across the screen. Michael stepped forward. "What are you doing?" Ashley smiled through her tears, and there was something desperate in it now. "If you all want to make me the villain," she said, "let's see what people think when they hear my side." My stomach dropped. She raised the phone toward her face, and before any of us could stop her, Ashley went live. Ashley's phone screen glowed against her face like a match struck in a dark room. For 1 second, no one moved. There are moments when the mind refuses to accept what the eyes are seeing. I had spent the entire evening bracing for anger, denial, blame, even threats. But I had not imagined Ashley would try to turn my dining room into a stage while her children sat upstairs, one cartoon movie away from hearing their mother perform victimhood for strangers. "Ashley, Michael," said his voice low. "Turn it off." She took one step back, angling the camera so her face filled the screen. Tears stood in her eyes, but I knew by then that Ashley could summon tears the way some people summon a smile. Everyone, she said into the phone, breathless and shaking. "I'm sorry to do this, but I need witnesses. My mother-in-law is trying to control my family." Patricia made a wounded sound. Helen stood slowly. "Ashley, this is not wise." Ashley ignored her. "She has my husband sitting here like he's on trial," Ashley continued. "And she's trying to make me look like a bad mother because I took a few days to work on myself." Michael's face went pale. "Work on yourself? Jack had a fever, and you wouldn't answer your phone." Ashley swung the camera away from him quickly, but not quickly enough. Comments began appearing on the screen. I could not read them all from where I sat, but I saw hearts, question marks, little faces. People were joining. Ashley's voice rose. "See, this is exactly what I mean. They twist everything. I left my children with their grandmother, not a stranger. I did not move towards her. That surprised even me. Or younger version of myself might have rushed forward, begged her to stop, tried to cover the folder, tried to protect the family from public shame. But that older, quieter strength in me had learned something. People who use chaos as a weapon often count on everyone else panicking. So I stayed seated. Helen, too, remained controlled. Ashley, you are broadcasting private information about your minor children. That sentence entered the live stream. Ashley realized it and snapped. They're my children, Michael answered. Then protect them. His voice was clear, stronger than I had heard it all night. The comments moved faster. Ashley turned slightly, trying to frame herself with the wall behind her instead of the dining table. But she had already made a mistake. The first angle had shown too much: the folder, the printed screenshots, the blue velvet box, Patricia crying Michael standing near the stairs. Online viewers do not always understand truth, but they understand a scene that does not match the story being told. Ashley pressed her hand to her chest. I am being attacked because I needed a break. Mothers are allowed to need breaks. I spoke then, not loudly. Mothers are allowed to need breaks. Children are allowed to need reliable parents. Her eyes flashed toward me. You hear that she said to the phone? That judgment. This woman has been judging me since the day I married her son. Patricia wiped her tears and said, Brooke welcomed you. Ashley's camera caught her mother's voice, though not her face. Ashley snapped, Mom, stay out of it. A comment rose large enough for me to glimpse. Why is her mum crying? Another followed. What happened with the kids? Ashley's mouth tightened. My mother is emotional because she doesn't understand boundaries. Helen said, Interesting word choice. Ashley glared at her. Then Michael, God bless him, finally stepped fully into the truth. Ashley, he said, you told Mom your flight changed. It didn't. You told her to keep the kids another few days without asking. You didn't send emergency information. You didn't answer when Jack was sick. That is what we are discussing. Ashley froze. She had meant to control the narrative, but she had forgotten that live video does not edit kindly. For the first time, I saw her eyes move to the comment stream with real alarm. She laughed too quickly. That is not accurate. Michael stepped closer. It is in your text messages. More comments appeared. Did he say the kid was sick? Why didn't she answer? This sounds messy. Turn off live and handle your family. Ashley's breathing quickened. He is being manipulated. I rose then slowly because I could hear movement upstairs. Not footsteps yet, but the subtle change in a house when children stop watching a movie and start listening. Ashley, I said, turn it off before Emma and Jack hear more. She pointed the phone at me. And there I was, 68 years old, standing in my own dining room under the soft light, with my grey hair pinned back and my heart beating so hard I felt it in my throat. This is Brooke Ashley, said bitterly, the grandmother who thinks helping with her grandkids makes her a martyr. I looked into the phone, not at the viewers, but at my own reflection in the glass. No, I said calmly. Helping made me a grandmother. Being ordered, insulted, lied to, and then threatened with losing my grandchildren made me speak. The comments exploded faster. Ashley jerked the phone back. She made a whole invoice. She wants money for watching her own grandkids. That is not true, Michael said. Helen lifted the folder, still composed. It is a record of care after Ashley referred to Brooke's labour as nothing. Ashley tried to grab the folder with her free hand, but Helen moved it just out of reach. That small movement brought the blue velvet box into full view of the camera. Someone online noticed. What is the jewelry box? Another comment, is this about the necklace from Miami? Ashley saw it. Her face changed completely. The blood seemed to leave her lips. I looked at the screen and felt a chill. That's someone watching you. Someone had seen Ashley's photos. Someone had connected the pearls around her neck in Miami to the empty box on my table. Then another comment appeared from a name I recognized, because Ashley had tagged her in several Miami photos. Girl, didn't you say you dumped the kids on Grandma so you could finally breathe? The room went silent. Even Ashley stopped speaking. The comment stayed there long enough for all of us to understand what had happened. One of her Miami friends, perhaps, careless, perhaps, irritated, perhaps simply addicted to public drama, had said aloud what Ashley had tried to hide. Dump the kids on Grandma. The phrase seemed to echo off every wall in my house. Michael closed his eyes. Patricia whispered, "Oh, Ashley." Ashley's thumb shook against the phone. That's not she's taking that out of context. But the internet, for all its cruelty and confusion, can smell panic. The comment shifted instantly. You said dumped. Turn this off and go hug your kids. Why are you live right now? This is embarrassing. Your child was sick. That necklace comment. Ashley looked at me, and for the first time there was no polished mask, no clever comeback, no superior smile, only fear. Not fear for Emma and Jack. Not yet. Fear for herself. Fear for the image she had built, the admiration she had collected, the story she had sold. Her perfect online motherhood was cracking in real time. Michael reached for the phone. Ashley pulled away. Don't touch me. Then turn it off. I said, don't touch me. That shout carried upstairs. A second later, Emma appeared at the top of the stairs in her pajamas. Jack stood behind her, clutching his dinosaur. Everything in me moved toward them. I left the dining room table without looking back. The live stream, the comments, Ashley's panic, all of it fell behind me because the children mattered more than the spectacle. Grandma Emma's voice trembled. I climbed the stairs slow enough not to frighten them, fast enough to reach them before Ashley could. It's all right, I said. Come here. Jack's eyes were huge. Mommy yelled, I know, sweetheart. Is she mad at us? And no. I bent down and opened my arms. They both came into them. Emma first, then Jack, pressing himself against my side. Behind me, Michael said, Ashley, look at what you're doing. I did not turn around. I guided the children into the guest room and closed the door halfway, not enough to make them feel trapped enough to soften the voices. Emma was shaking. I sat on the edge of the bed and pulled them close. Listen to me, I said. Grown-up mistakes are not children's burdens. Hi, Emma's tears spilled over. Mum said you were trying to take us. My heart broke cleanly then. No, I said, holding her face gently between my hands. I am not trying to take you from anyone. I am trying to make sure every grown-up remembers that you and Jack are not weapons, not bills, not problems, and not proof of who is winning. Jack sniffled. Are we still going home? I don't know what tonight looks like yet, I said. But you will be safe. Your daddy is here. I am here, and nobody is angry at you. Emma leaned into me, trying so hard not to sob. I rocked them both the way I had rocked Michael when he was small. For several minutes, I whispered ordinary things because ordinary things are sometimes the bridge back from fear. I told Jack his dinosaur was very brave. I told Emma her bee project was the best one I had ever seen. I told them we would have hot cocoa tomorrow if their father agreed. Downstairs, the voices lowered. Then I heard the front door open, hard, then slam. A car door followed. Then the sound of an engine starting too quickly and pulling away. Michael came upstairs a few minutes later. His face looked grey. "She left," he said. Emma began crying harder. Michael crossed the room and knelt in front of her. "I'm here, baby. I'm not leaving." For once, he did not look to me to fix it first. He held his daughter while she cried. That was something. A small thing, perhaps, but real. I stayed with them until both children were calmer. We decided Michael would sleep on my sofa that night, and the children would remain in the guest room. No one wanted to move them again. No one wanted more disruption. Michael called Ashley twice from the hallway. No answer. He texted her. No response. Helen and Patricia remained downstairs. When I finally returned to the dining room, the table looked like a storm had passed over it. Papers shifted. One chair knocked slightly sideways. Ashley's shopping bags were gone. The blue velvet box was still there. But something else was missing. At first, I could not name it. Then my eyes went to the sideboard near the hallway, where I had placed Thomas's cedar letterbox earlier that afternoon, after taking out the old notebook for strength. It was gone. I walked to the sideboard and touched the empty space. My fingers found only dust. For a second, I could not breathe. Helen saw my face. "Brooke, the letterbox," I whispered. Michael turned. What letterbox? Thomas's letters. The room blurred. The pearls had been painful, but the letters were different. They were Thomas's voice, his handwriting, the private language of a marriage that had lasted through Bill's sickness, ordinary Tuesdays, and the final hospital room where he told me not to spend the rest of my life apologizing for being alive. Patricia covered her mouth. Ashley took it. I looked toward the front door. The answer sat in the silence. Ashley had lost control of the room, lost control of the live stream, lost control of Michael, lost control of the story. So she had taken the one thing she knew could still hurt me. I placed one hand on the dining table to steady myself. For a moment, the old Brooke rose in me, the one who would have collapsed into tears, who would have wondered what she had done to deserve such cruelty, who would have begged quietly for the box back. But that woman was not gone. She was simply no longer alone. Helen stood beside me. Patricia stood across from me. Michael was at the stairs, torn between his children and his shame. And upstairs, Emma and Jack needed adults who did not fall apart. I lifted my head. "Michael," I said, my voice unsteady but clear, "tomorrow, you are going to help me get your father's letters back." He nodded, tears in his eyes. "I will." Helen picked up her legal pad. "And this," she said quietly, "gets documented too." I looked at the empty space on the sideboard where Thomas's letterbox had been. Ashley thought leaving with my memories would make me weak. But all it did was teach everyone in that house exactly who she had become. That night, no one in my house truly slept. The children eventually drifted off in the guest room, exhausted from fear they should never have been asked to carry. Michael stayed on the sofa downstairs with one lamp on, still dressed in the same wrinkled shirt he had worn to the family meeting. I could hear him turning over now and then, the old sofa springs complaining beneath him. I sat in my bedroom with Thomas's empty space in my chest. Not the kind of emptiness that came after his funeral. That had been a wide, crushing emptiness, like standing in a field after a tornado and not knowing where your house had gone. This was sharper, personal, intentional. Someone had reached into the drawer of my life and taken the voice of the man who had loved me best. I kept seeing Ashley's face before she left. Cornered, humiliated, furious. And then the sideboard, the missing cedar letterbox. For years, that box had been one of my quiet anchors. Thomas had built it from cedar because he said cedar held memory better than plastic tubs and cardboard. Inside were letters from our early marriage notes he left in my lunch bag when I was still teaching anniversary cards, and the last letter he wrote when he knew his heart was failing faster than either of us wanted to admit. I had not read that last letter often. Some grief is too sacred to touch every day. But knowing it was there had comforted me. Now it was gone. Around 3 a.m, I stopped pretending I might sleep. I put on my robe and went downstairs. Michael was sitting up on the sofa, elbows on his knees, face in his hands. He looked up when he heard me. "Mom," he whispered, "I'm so sorry." Those words had come from him more than once that week. But this time they sounded different. Not like a man trying to escape discomfort, like a son finally seeing the wreckage his silence had helped create. I stood in the doorway. "Sorry will not bring back your father's letters." His face crumpled. "I know." I walked into the living room and sat in the armchair across from him. The room smelled faintly of old coffee and children's popcorn. Outside, the street was dark. Somewhere in the house, Jack coughed once in his sleep. Michael looked toward the stairs immediately. "He's okay," I said. "Just sleeping." He nodded, then stared at his hands. For a while, neither of us spoke. When he finally did, his voice was barely above a whisper. I let this happen. It would have been easier to comfort him. Easier to say, "No, honey, you were trying." Easier to wrap my pain around his guilt, and soften it for him as I had done all his life. But I had promised myself I would stop paying emotional bills that did not belong to me. So I said, "Yes." "You did?" He closed his eyes. The words hurt him. They hurt me too. But truth often hurts most when it first enters a room that has been living on excuses. "I kept thinking, if I could just keep things calm," he said. "If I didn't push her, if I didn't embarrass her, if I helped her feel supported, then she would stop needing so much. Stop spending, stop yelling, stop acting like everyone was against her." "And did she?" He shook his head. "No, then it was not calm, Michael. It was avoidance." He swallowed hard. "I know that now. Your children knew it before you did." That made him look up. I hated saying it. I hated the way his face changed. But Emma's tired eyes and Jack's frightened questions had earned honesty from someone. They heard the fights I continued. They heard the money worries. They learned to apologize for needing care. Emma has been acting like a little adult because the real adults kept failing her. Tears ran down his face. I didn't want them to grow up in a broken home. "Michael," I said softly. They were already living in one. The walls were just still standing. He covered his mouth with his hand, shoulders shaking. For the first time in my life, I let my son cry without rushing to rescue him from what the tears meant. After a while, he said, "I was afraid she'd take them." "I know." She said if I ever turned against her, she'd make sure I barely saw them. She said courts favor mothers. She said everyone would believe her because I'm always working, and she's the one people see online. That is why you need records. Counsel, support, not silence. He nodded, wiping his face with the heel of his hand. Helen gave me numbers. Counselors, a family attorney, a financial advisor. Good. I'm going to call them. When he looked at me, I held his gaze. "Today," he said. That was the first answer that sounded like change. I leaned back suddenly, tired down to the bone. Then he whispered, "Do you hate me?" The question pulled at the oldest part of my heart. "No," I said. "You are my son. I love you, but love is not the same as approval." He nodded, tears still slipping down his cheeks. I don't know how to fix this. You begin with what is yours to fix. He waited. You take responsibility for Emma and Jack. You stop using me as your emergency plan for problems you refuse to face. You tell the truth when it is uncomfortable. You do not let Ashley turn the children into weapons. And you help me get your father's letters back. His jaw tightened. I will. I believed he meant it, but meaning something in the dark at 3 a.m. is easier than doing it in daylight. So I stood, went to my desk, and returned with a clean sheet of paper. Michael gave a weak, almost startled laugh. Another agreement? Yes. He lowered his eyes. I deserve that. This one is not punishment, I said. It is clarity. At the top, I wrote family boundaries, Brooke Nelson. Then I listed them aloud as I wrote. No unplanned childcare drop-offs. All requests must be made at least 48 hours in advance, unless there is a true emergency. A true emergency does not include vacations, social events, influencer meetings, shopping, avoidable work conflicts, or marital arguments. I may say no without being guilted, insulted, or threatened. If I care for Emma and Jack, I must have both parents' contact information, location, emergency details, and medical instructions. I will not give money to cover hidden debts, lifestyle spending, or financial dishonesty. Any financial help for the children will go directly to the school doctor counselor or education fund. I will not participate in lies told to Patricia, the children, or anyone else to protect Ashley's image. Michael must arrange counselling for himself and the children. Michael must meet with a financial advisor and understand the full debt situation. Michael must consult a family attorney if Ashley continues threatening access to Emma and Jack. When I finished, I turned the paper toward him. This is not about shutting you out, I said. This is about keeping me from disappearing inside your crisis. Michael read it slowly. Then he signed. No argument, no sigh, no wounded look meant to make me feel cruel. Just his name at the bottom. After he signed, he sat back and said, "She called Dad's letters old junk once. I felt the air leave me." When? A few months ago. We were talking about storage and she said your house was full of old junk that nobody would want when you were gone. He winced. I told her not to talk like that, but you did not tell me. No, why? Because I knew it would hurt you. I looked at him. Or because telling me would have required you to face her. He looked down. Yes. There was no pleasure in being right. Only grief. I thought of Ashley standing in my home, looking at the things Thomas had made, the furniture he had repaired, the pictures he had framed, the letters he had written. To her, they were clutter. Old things. Useless unless they could be sold, worn, displayed, or used to make someone else feel small. She may sell them, I said. Michael's head lifted. No, she wouldn't. He stopped himself. The old reflex had appeared and died in the same breath. He stood. I'll text her now. No, I said. He paused. We will handle this carefully. No begging, no emotional messages she can twist. We ask for the return of my property by a specific time. Calmly, clearly. I took out my phone. My hands trembled, but my words did not. Ashley, you left my home tonight with Thomas's cedar letterbox. It contains personal letters and belongs to me. Return it to my house by tomorrow at 5 p.m. If you took it by mistake, this message gives you the chance to correct that. Do not contact the children about this matter. I showed it to Michael. He nodded. I sent it. Then I took a screenshot. A minute passed. Then another. No response. At 3:42 a.m., my phone buzzed. Ashley had replied, "You people are insane. I didn't take anything. Maybe you misplaced it like the necklace." Michael read it over my shoulder. His face hardened. "She's lying." "Yes," I said. That was all. No shock. No excuse. No desperate attempt to explain it away. Just the truth. The next morning was Monday. In every practical sense, though, it felt like the morning after a storm. Michael made breakfast for the children. Burned toast, uneven, scrambled eggs, too much butter. But he made it. Jack declared the eggs weird, but okay. Emma watched her father carefully, as if trying to decide whether this version of him would stay. When Michael took them to school, Jack forgot his dinosaur on the hallway bench. Michael turned back for it without being asked. Another small thing. Another beginning. After they left, I called Helen. She answered quickly. Did she respond? I read Ashley's text. Helen was silent for a moment. Document it. Photograph the sideboard where the box was. Write down when you last saw it. Make a list of contents. We will send a more formal written request if she does not return it. I feel ridiculous, I said, calling about letters. Brooke Helen said, her voice firm, sentimental value is value. Personal property is property. And cruelty does not become less serious because the item cannot be sold for much. I sat at the kitchen table and looked at Thomas's empty coffee mug on the shelf. She took his voice. No, Helen said gently. She took paper. His voice is still in you, but we are going to get the paper back. I wiped my eyes. That afternoon, Michael called a counsellor, then a financial advisor, then with Helen's referral, a family attorney. He told me each call after he made it, not before. And that mattered. For the first time, he was not asking me to push him into adulthood. He was reporting that he had stepped there himself. When the children came home, I watched him help Emma with her backpack and ask Jack whether he wanted water or juice. Ashley had not returned. She had posted, not called the children. She had posted nothing online after the live stream disaster. The silence was not peace. It was pressure. At 4:53 p.m., 7 minutes before the deadline, I had given her a car, stopped outside my house. Michael was in the living room with the children. Helen had come over just in case. Patricia had stayed in town at a small hotel, too shaken to drive back yet, and she sat beside me at the kitchen table with untouched tea in front of her. We all heard the car door. I stood. Through the front window, I saw Ashley walking up my path. Her hair was pulled into a messy knot. No sunglasses, no polished smile, no bright outfit chosen for an audience. In her arms, she carried the cedar letterbox. For one brief, dangerous second, my heart wanted to run to the door and snatch it from her, but I did not. I waited. Ashley knocked this time. A small thing, but everyone in the room noticed. Michael opened the door. Ashley looked past him at me. Her eyes were red, but I could not yet tell whether from regret, anger, or lack of sleep. I brought it back, she said. No apology. Not yet. But the box was in her hands. And sometimes, before healing can begin, stolen things must first be returned. Ashley stood on my porch with Thomas's cedar letterbox held against her chest. For a moment, nobody spoke. The house behind me was too quiet. Michael stood by the open door, one hand still on the knob. Helen sat straight backed at my kitchen table, watching with the calm attention of a woman who had seen too many people mistake tears for accountability. Patricia stood near the hallway. Her face pale, her eyes fixed on her daughter. Upstairs, Emma and Jack were in the guest room, again this time drawing pictures, while Michael had told them the grown-ups needed one more conversation. I hated that phrase by then. One more conversation. Children in troubled homes hear that sentence and learn to hold their breath. Ashley looked different without her armor. No sleek blazer, no perfect curls, no sunglasses hiding her eyes. Her hair was pulled back carelessly, and there were dark smudges beneath her eyes. She wore grey sweatpants and an oversized sweatshirt I recognized as Michael's from college. The woman who had walked into my house days earlier with shopping bags and airport perfume now looked like someone who had spent a night meeting herself and not liking the introduction. Michael stepped aside. Ashley entered slowly. This time, she did not walk in like she owned the place. She held out the cedar box. "I brought it back," she said again. I took it from her with both hands. The wood was warm from her grip. My fingers moved over the lid, over the tiny notch Thomas had carved near the corner by accident, and then turned into a little leaf. I opened it just enough to see the blue ribbon around the letters. They were there. A breath I'd not realized I was holding left me. "Thank you for returning it," I said. Ashley's eyes flicked to mine. I could tell she expected more relief forgiveness, maybe an emotional collapse she could use to shift the room. But I only closed the box and placed it on the table beside me. Patricia took one step forward. "Ashley, why did you take it?" Ashley's face hardened out of habit. "I told you I didn't realize Ashley Michael said. Just her name." She stopped. The lie died before it fully stood. Her mouth trembled. She looked away toward my living room window where the late afternoon light was slipping across the carpet. "I was angry," she said. It was the first honest sentence I had heard from her in days. Helen did not write anything down. She simply listened. Ashley swallowed. I wanted her to feel how I felt. I looked at her. "And how was that?" "Exposed," she snapped, then immediately seemed ashamed of the sharpness. Humiliated, like everyone had decided who I was, and there was no way to explain. Patricia's voice was soft, but firm. "You went live, Ashley. You exposed yourself." Ashley flinched. "I know, the 2 words were small, but they carried weight." Michael closed the door behind her. "The kids are upstairs. They don't need to hear yelling." "I'm not here to yell," Ashley said. I wanted to believe that. I did not quite manage it. She looked toward the stairs. "Can I see them?" Michael answered before I could. "After we talk." A flash of resentment crossed her face, but she forced it down. That was new. I gestured toward the kitchen. "Come sit." She hesitated, then followed. No one sat around the dining table this time. That table still held too much of the previous night's storm. Instead, I led Ashley to the back porch where Thomas had built a wooden bench beneath the maple tree. The others remained inside. Helen gave me one questioning glance, and I nodded. I did not want an ambush. I did not want an audience. I wanted one honest conversation if Ashley was capable of giving it. The air outside was cool. My garden had begun to fade with the season, but a few late flowers still held their colour. Ashley sat at the far end of the bench, arms wrapped around herself. For a while, we watched the leaves move. Then I said, "Thomas built this bench." Ashley glanced at it, but did not speak. "He built a lot of things in this house." I continued. "The bookshelves in the living room, the cedar box you took, the frame around the mirror in the hallway. He was a carpenter before his hands got too stiff for long days." Ashley looked down at her lap. "He wrote letters because he was better with wood than with speeches. Every anniversary, every difficult season, sometimes. Ordinary Tuesdays. He wrote what he could not always say aloud." My throat tightened, but I kept going. "After he died, I would sit at the kitchen table and read one when the house felt too quiet. Not every night. Some nights I was strong enough without them. But knowing they were there helped me remember that I had been loved well. Ashley wiped beneath one eye quickly. "I didn't read them," she said. "I'm glad. I just took the box as a weapon." She closed her eyes. "Yes, the honesty hurt, but at least it was clean." I turned slightly toward her. "Ashley, you saw my time as free, my grief as forgettable, and my love as something you could spend." Her face crumpled then, not beautifully. Not like women cry in movies with one perfect tear and dignity intact. Her mouth twisted, her shoulders shook. She covered her face with both hands and cried like someone finally too tired to keep performing. For a long moment, I let her cry. Not because tears fixed anything, because sometimes silence gives a person nowhere to hide from themselves. When she finally spoke, her voice was ragged. "I hate how much they love you." I sat very still. "Emma and Jack." She nodded, still looking down. "They run to you. They calm down with you. You make everything look easy. Pancakes, bedtime, homework, little song soup. They talk about Grandma Brooke, like you're this safe little world they get to visit. And then they come home, and I'm the one saying, 'Hurry up, clean up, stop crying, we're late.'" Her honesty was ugly, but it was honesty. "I felt like a failure every time they wanted you," she whispered. "So you punished me for being loved by them." "I didn't think of it that way." "But that is what you did." She nodded slowly, tears falling into her lap. "I wanted to be more than just somebody's mother," she said. "Then I became bad at being one." The sentence hung in the air between us. Some part of me softened. Not enough to excuse her, not enough to forget, but enough to remember that broken people often bleed on those closest to them. Ashley continued online. I could make things look right. I could post a picture and people would say I was beautiful, inspiring, ambitious. At home, Jack was coughing. Emma needed help. Michael was stressed, bills were everywhere, and I felt like I was disappearing. So you made me disappear instead. She looked at me then. "I'm sorry," she said. I did not answer immediately. There are apologies that ask for forgiveness and apologies that ask for escape. I needed to know which one this was. "What are you sorry for?" I asked. She swallowed. "I'm sorry I said you did nothing." I waited. "I'm sorry I left Emma and Jack without asking properly. I'm sorry I stayed longer and lied about the flight. I'm sorry I didn't answer about Jack. I'm sorry I told Emma things she should never have heard. I'm sorry I took your necklace. I'm sorry I took the letters." Her voice broke on that last one. "And Michael?" I asked. Her face tightened. "I knew that would be harder. I'm sorry I blamed him for everything while hiding bills from him," she said. "I'm sorry I made him afraid to talk." That was closer. Still incomplete, but closer. I looked out at the garden. A leaf broke free from the maple and spun to the ground. "I do not hate you, Ashley." She let out a breath that sounded almost like a sob. "But I do not trust you." Her face fell. "And those are not the same thing." She nodded, crying silently now. "I will help my grandchildren," I said. "I will always help them when they truly need me. But I will not finance disrespect. I will not give money for hidden debts. I will not be ordered into childcare. I will not be insulted and then threatened with losing the children. I will not let you use Emma and Jack as punishment, and I will not let you rewrite the truth to protect your image." "I know," she whispered. "No, you are hearing it, knowing it will be proved by what you do next." She looked at me. So I laid out the choice. You and Michael will attend family counselling. You will be transparent about every debt, not some, every debt. You will return the pearl necklace today. You will stop posting about the children for sympathy or attention. You will not contact Emma and Jack to tell them adult versions of this story. You will respect the childcare agreement Michael signed. If I say no, the answer is no. She wiped her face. And if I don't, then Michael will take steps to protect the children, including separation if necessary. Helen has already given him referrals. I am not deciding your marriage, but I am done helping everyone pretend this is simply stress. Ashley stared at the garden for a long time. Then she whispered, I don't know if Michael will forgive me. That is between you and Michael. Will you? I thought about Thomas's letters, Emma's question, Jack asking if he was hard to love, the necklace around Ashley's neck in Miami, Michael crying on my sofa at 3 a.m. I don't know, I said. Honestly, forgiveness for me will not be a door you walk through because you cried on my porch. It will be a road you build with changed behavior. She nodded. Then she asked the question I had not expected. Can I still become a good mother? For the first time, she sounded young. Not innocent, not blameless, but frightened in a way that was not theatrical. Yes, I said, but not if your first concern is still looking like one. She closed her eyes and absorbed that. We sat there until the porch light clicked on, automatically casting a warm circle around us. Finally, Ashley stood. I'll get the necklace from my bag, she said. I stood too. Good. As we walked back inside, Michael looked up from the living room. His eyes searched her face, then mine. Ashley did not rush to the stairs. She did not demand the children. She did not perform motherhood for the room. She went to her suitcase by the door, opened a small inner pocket, and pulled out the pearl necklace. For 1 second, it lay across her palm, glowing softly in the hallway light. Then she placed it in my hand. I'm sorry, she said again. This time she did not look around to see who heard it. That did not heal everything. It did not erase the damage, but it was the first moment Ashley returned something without being forced by exposure. And sometimes, before a family can heal, the people who broke trust must learn to place what they stole back into open hands. 6 months later, my house sounded like my house again. That may seem like a small thing, but after years of living with a phone that could turn any peaceful morning into someone else's emergency, quiet felt like a gift I had forgotten how to open. The first few weeks after Ashley returned, the necklace were not easy. I will not pretend they were. Real change does not arrive wrapped in soft music and immediate forgiveness. It comes awkwardly, unevenly, with uncomfortable phone calls, missed habits, hard conversations, and moments when everyone is tempted to go back to the old pattern simply because it is familiar. Ashley did not transform overnight. Michael did not become brave in a single evening. And I did not magically stop feeling hurt just because stolen things had been returned. But something important had changed. The truth was no longer hidden. That made all the difference. Michael kept his word. The very next week, he met with a financial advisor and learned the full size of the debt Ashley had been hiding. I did not ask for every detail because it was not my marriage and not my money to manage. But Michael told me enough for me to understand the damage was serious. There were credit cards, personal loans, payment plans for online courses, hotel charges, clothing purchases, photography sessions, subscriptions for branding tools Ashley barely used. The fantasy of success had been built on borrowed money and silence. This time, Michael did not ask me for a check. That mattered. Instead, he and Ashley sold several luxury items she had bought, cancelled services they could not afford, and met with a credit counsellor. Ashley took a part-time job at a local home decor store. I remember Michael telling me that with embarrassment in his voice, as if he expected me to see it as a fall. I did not. Honest work is not humiliation, I told him. It is a beginning. Ashley entered therapy. At first, I suspected she went only because Michael made it a condition. Perhaps that was true. But over time, even forced doors can open into useful rooms. She also began attending family counselling with Michael. Sometimes they went together, sometimes separately. Sometimes one of them left angry, and the other sat in the car before driving home. Healing was not pretty, but it was real enough to be seen. For the children, the change came slowly, like colour returning to a face after fear has passed. Emma stopped asking whether things were expensive every time she needed new shoes or school supplies. Her teacher, Mrs. Alvarez, told Michael that Emma was more focused in class. She still watched adults too closely, but she smiled more. She laughed more. She began drawing pictures of houses with windows open instead of closed. Jack's cough came and went with the seasons, but his fear softened. He no longer asked if he was hard to take care of. He still asked for pancakes with the seriousness of a judge issuing a ruling. But now he did it with confidence, not apology. Michael learned to be a father in the ordinary ways that matter most. He packed lunches badly at first. The bread got soggy. He forgot napkins. Once he sent Jack to preschool with 2 left gloves. But he tried. He learned. He asked the teacher questions himself instead of sending them through me. He attended Emma's school presentation about honeybees and sat in the front row, clapping louder than anyone. One Saturday, he called and asked, "Mom, would you like the kids for a few hours next weekend?" No pressure. I'm asking, not assuming. I stood in my kitchen with the phone in my hand and closed my eyes. Those words were small. They were also everything. I said yes that time. Another time I said no because my book club had planned a day trip to a historic house in Granville. Michael said, "Okay, Mom, have fun. No guilt, no sigh, no suggestion that my plans were less important because I was retired. I nearly cried after hanging up. Ashley's relationship with me remained careful. That is the honest word for it. Careful. She did not suddenly become the daughter I had once hoped for. She did not come over every week for tea. She did not call me Mom Nelson with easy warmth again. But she knocked before entering my house. She asked before leaving the children. She said, "Thank you." And when she failed, because people do fail, she corrected herself faster. One afternoon, about 2 months after everything happened, she texted me, "Can you take Jack tomorrow afternoon? I have an appointment." Then a minute later, another text came. "Sorry, I should ask properly. Are you available and willing to watch Jack tomorrow from 2 to 5? Well, if not, I'll arrange something else." I stared at the message for a long time. Then I replied, "Yes, I can do that tomorrow. Thank you for asking." It was not forgiveness, but it was a brick in the road. Patricia and I became friends in a way neither of us expected. She came to Columbus once a month sometimes to see the children, sometimes to sit with me over coffee, while we talked about the strange pain of loving adult children who had hurt us. She told me Ashley had always chased approval, even as a girl. I told her Michael had always avoided conflict, even as a boy. We did not use those truths as excuses, only as maps. As for me, I kept the pearl necklace in the blue velvet box, but I moved it from my jewelry drawer to Thomas's cedar box. The letters went back inside too. For several weeks, I checked the box every night before bed, just to reassure myself that what was mine was still there. Then one night, I realized I had not checked it. That was when I knew I was beginning to heal. My own life grew wider again. I returned to the library book club. I volunteered at the church pantry without checking my phone every 10 minutes. I planted new lavender by the porch. I bought myself a pale yellow raincoat simply because I liked it, not because anyone needed anything from me. And I began using the cost of nothing for something I had never planned. It started with Helen. She called one afternoon and said, "Brooke, I know a woman from church whose daughter keeps dropping off her children without asking. She feels guilty saying no. Would you talk to her?" I almost refused. I was not an expert in family boundaries. I was just a woman who had learned hers late. But then I remembered Emma asking if she could fix my sadness. I remembered Jack asking if he was hard to love. I remembered all the women I had known who disappeared into service and called it peace. So I said yes. That first conversation happened at my kitchen table. Then another woman came. Then another. Eventually, the local library offered us a small meeting room on Tuesday evenings. We called the group the cost of nothing. It was not a legal clinic. It was not therapy. It was simply a circle of older women learning to say the words we should have been allowed to say long ago. I need notice. I am not available. I love you, but no. My time matters. My help is not permission to disrespect me. Some women cried the first time they said no out loud. Some laughed because the word felt foreign in their mouths. Some brought notebooks. Some brought stories that made mine seem gentle. We did not judge one another for how long it had taken us to wake up. We were awake now. That was enough. One bright Sunday afternoon, Emma and Jack came over for dinner. Michael brought them and Ashley came too. She looked nervous, as she often did in my house now, but not hostile. She carried a salad she had made herself. Not ordered, made. The lettuce was chopped too large and there were far too many cucumbers, but I thanked her sincerely. After dinner, Michael washed the dishes without being asked. Ashley helped Jack tie his shoes. Emma followed me onto the porch, where the late sun poured gold over the maple tree. I sat in Thomas's old chair with a cup of tea. Emma leaned against the railing, watching bees move through the lavender. "Grandma Brooke?" she asked. "Yes, sweetheart. Are you still doing nothing?" I looked at her quickly, worried for half a second that some old wound had reopened. But she was smiling. There was gentleness in the question now. I smiled back. Sometimes doing nothing means finally refusing to be used. Emma thought about that with all the seriousness of 8 years old. Then she came over and wrapped her arms around me. "I think you do everything," she whispered. I held her close and looked through the window at Michael, drying plates. Ashley wiping Jack's face, Patricia laughing at something Helen had said in the kitchen. Not perfect. Not fixed forever. But honest was more than we had been before. That night, after everyone left, I closed the front door and stood in the quiet hallway. The house felt peaceful, not because everyone was happy, but because I was no longer afraid of peace being taken from me. I walked to the sideboard and picked up the framed photo of Thomas. He was smiling in that crooked way I had loved for more than 40 years. "You were right," I whispered. I finally remembered. Then I turned off the light, not as a woman waiting to be needed, but as a woman who had finally learned she was already enough. Sometimes the hardest truth to accept is that love can become a habit people exploit, if we never attach boundaries to it. Brooke's story is not just about a grandmother, a daughter-in-law, or a family argument over childcare. It is about every person who has ever been told their time does not matter because they are retired, older kind, patient, or dependable. Caregiving is real work. Emotional support is real work. Showing up for children, cooking meals, driving across town, staying awake during fevers, and offering a safe home are not nothing. They are acts of love. But love does not erase their value. A painful lesson Brooke had to learn is that silence does not always protect a family. Sometimes silence protects the person doing harm. Peace built on one person's exhaustion is not true peace. It is only delay. Real peace begins when truth is allowed into the room. Boundaries are not cruelty. Boundaries are not selfishness. Boundaries are the lines that allow love to remain healthy instead of turning into resentment. Brooke did not stop loving her son, her grandchildren, or even hoping Ashley could change. She simply stopped allowing her love to be used as a blank check. And that is the message worth carrying. You can be kind without being available for disrespect. You can forgive without returning to the same pattern. You can love your family deeply and still say, "No, not like this." If this story touched your heart, tell me in the comments. Have you ever felt taken for granted by your own family? What would you have done if you were Brooke? I would love to know where you are watching from and what time it is there. Please like this video, subscribe, and stay with us for more emotional family stories about truth, courage, and healing.